right.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How we doing?
We're doing pretty good.
So hopefully this layout works for everyone. Can everyone see us? So, yeah, below us here we are, needless to say, joined by Dan Kuntz on the third window. And on the fourth window, Christoph, who they are the dream team behind PS1 Digital, DC Digital. I mean, you guys have become incredibly prolific.
Creating what I think is like probably the mods that I'm most excited for these days.
I mean, you guys are definitely making kind of some new gold standards for HDMI mods. That is for sure.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
it's awesome to have, and just to kind of explain, like, I mean, maybe Dan and Christoph, you could explain a little bit about your how you work together. I mean, Dan is in the U.S., Christoph is in Germany, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is Dan mostly handles the hardware side, and Christoph mostly handles kind of the software side.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys meet and start working together?
It was back when Christoph just posted up some files about the Dreamcast on a GitHub that I happened to find, and he did it off a WaveShare development board, and then so I kind of made some custom hardware to fit in the Dreamcast, and then it kind of just cycled from there.
Yeah, that story was some condensed version of that story was actually told in Analog Frontiers Part 2.
Yes.
But yeah, so we just got both just got PS1 Digital and XStation systems in this week. So I mean, I put Spyro 2 on the thing just because I thought, at some point in the stream we should settle into actually playing a game for real. But since we are messing around with new mods and new hardware that people might be interested in seeing certain things,
specifically Action Bass.
Yeah, I'm sure people, this list of games is, I won't say I exactly own all of the games on this list. I was thinking about being a good boy and putting a memory card only with the games that I have, but I didn't have time to put it together. The one thing to say about the XStation right now is that it does not have, because I've got these actually organized on the folder, my collection, with American games, my collection with Japanese games, my collections with the games that I've got like on the PlayStation 3. And then, I was going to have folders for everything else. But the way it is right now, it kind of just dumps it generates a list, which is kind of cool because it doesn't have to like scan it every single time. Like you refresh the list when you update your card, but then it can just load this whole crazy long list like immediately. But the downside right now is that there are no folders. I'm not sure if that's possibly, I don't know if you know anything about the roadmap on the XStation. This is not made by you guys. The XStation is made by Rama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know too much of the details about that. I know he's still actively working on it, so I would think that he'll have folder support at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, but as it is right now, it works really, really nicely.
Yeah.
We did have a donation. We had a couple of donations. We had $5 from For Love of the Game, saying the PlayStation has the biggest unexplored and high quality library of all consoles. There are still hundreds of games that are completely unknown. So what was the reason to make the PS1 as your next, after following the DC Digital? Why did you go for PS1 next?
You would answer that, Christoph?
Yeah, basically we needed PS1 support for PS2 digital,
Right.
and
okay.
so we started with the PS1. So
Right.
And-
I remember Dan saying something to that effect because you were working on PS2, but then you're like, well, you know, the hardware could be basically the same between the two mods, but
yes,
PS2 requires more, a lot more work on the deinterlacing side of things,
Yes,
and that
exactly.
was really difficult. So, my understanding is that's why PS1 came first, because it would ultimately be less work. But I don't know if this is still the plan, but what Dan had said at one point was, you know, the hardware that is in PS1 Digital, even though motion adaptive deinterlacing is not available right now, the hardware should be able to support whatever motion adaptive deinterlacing is eventually integrated for the PS2 mod.
yes, exactly. Yeah, this is the
Uh,
plan.
Which leads us to our second donation, saying from Henry Clark, $2 from Henry Clark, saying, will the PS2 digital make 480i look better than with the OSSC? And I mean, based on what I've seen, the deinterlaced the deinterlacing that I've seen so far is incredible looking.
I mean,
You know,
yeah, I
that-
mean, the OSSC doesn't even support weave deinterlacing right now.
Mhm.
So that's already, you know, a step above on the PS1 side. But yeah, it should be significantly better in terms of that.
One of the big things is that it can go from 240p to 480i without dropping a signal.
Yeah, I mean, which
and that-
is why I loaded up Silent Hill, because, you know, as you can see, this menu right here, this is a 480i menu.
Yeah, you can you can just pull up the test screen and it'll show the input on the
Oh
OSD.
yeah, that's right. So there's you bring up, just so people know, you bring up the menu by holding R2, L2, Start, Square, and X, and it actually does tell you what resolution you're currently dealing with, and you can actually interact with the game
Cheryl?
while
Is that Cheryl?
while in the menu, because you navigate with like R1, L1, which I think is a smart choice, because that tends to interfere with the game in the background a little better than like hitting X or something.
Hey, wait! Stop!
Exactly.
But like if I hit I hit select, then you can see it change to 320 by 480i, but there's nothing. And right now I've got set on 960p output. I really like that because your TV will then scale it to fit. So it's a little bigger on your screen than 1080p is. But of course, like, you know, if you were really going for like pixel perfection, you know, 1080p would be sharper, but it'd be a little smaller. But I like the 960p, so that's what I'm working with right now. Now I saw anti-aliasing in the chat say something about asking about Bob deinterlacing, and that was something that I've still been trying to figure out, because there is a Bob mode in here, but I think you can't use it at the same time as you're, because see, like, so for example, I've got in here clock adjust. I've got it set for force 240p. What that basically means is, as far as I understand, it is forcing 240p video timings. In other words, the system speed doesn't change or anything when you go between 240p and 480i. I guess normally it would. Is that correct?
Okay, it's fixing the video timings to 240p refresh rate, and then it's if you change to 480i, you're losing basically the sync between the start of the frame. Then it's free floating.
Right. So there could be some variable lag, and you'll see screen tearing, I think, in the opposite mode. So like in this particular mode, I might sometimes see screen tearing in 480i. Is that right?
Yes,
But
correctly. And if you're unlucky and change back to 240p in the wrong moment, then you can get a line of tearing.
But now then the other version, which I'll switch to right now, that's Force 480i, which means you may see screen tearing in 240p. But there might be some games, for example, that have like a 240p menu but 480i gameplay. I think some fighting games might do that. I'm not sure if like Tekken 3 or Dead or Alive.
Tekken 3 and Dead or Alive.
Do they have 240p menus? But see,
I don't know.
You almost would like definitely if it was. I have played games though that had 480i gameplay and 240p menus. Usually it's the other way around, but in that case you would probably not see screen tearing on 240p. But then like I believe this is one of the modes that you added most recently. If I go over to this VFR HDMI, that basically means that it changes on the fly. So
yes.
But some TVs may not like it, and in my case, my TV works just fine. But there's a little bit of an audio drop between
every once in a while
switching between them. So that's why I was going for the Force 240p mode. Is kind of my primary mode. There's also this overclock mode, which I think makes both 480i and 240p operate at exactly 60 hertz. Is that correct?
Not 60, but 59.94.
Okay. So, but that means that I actually haven't tried this mode a lot. So that's very similar to what you're getting on like the Super NT or the Mega SG or something, right? Where the clock speed has been adjusted to be sort of a standard value. But then you can
240p runs a little bit quicker then.
Right. So, because is it what 59.87? Is that?
Yeah, 59.8687. Yes.
Yeah. But then you can also turn it off, which basically behaves exactly like it behaves exactly like any.
Like RetroTink or OSSC.
Right, where if the resolution changes, your display is going to have to resync. So this gives you a few options. So I go back to 240p, and that way again, I can go into the menu without a drop. But what's interesting is when it says Force 240p, that doesn't mean that the resolution is now 240p. It's still 480i resolution, but it's 240p timings.
Yes.
So that's how it's able to hold the stable output. So
yes,
people don't need to think that all of a sudden like the whole game is going to look 240p if you're in that mode. That's not the case, but it just means that you are prioritizing 240p like timing. So if it's a 240p game, use that, and that I believe should work on basically any TV without any drop, any audio drops. But that VFR or VRF or whatever it's called, that one, it's hit and miss between certain TVs. It depends.
Yes, exactly.
But what I was saying, like the Bob, I don't think that's something I've actually seen in action on this yet. But the Bob is there, but I forget how it's activated. But you currently, as far as I understand, cannot use Bob at the same time as having the no drop switching, right?
Yes, exactly.
So how if I did want to see the Bob, how do I turn that on?
Yeah, I think there's a bug because it should be selectable in if clock adjust is off.
Oh, okay. Let me go back to off because I went there and I think it still was. Oh, there it is. Okay, now it's bobbing. I do see on the. I don't know how visible it'd be on the stream, but it is bobbing now. I mean, I'm
okay.
I'm kind of split. Like on, I mean, it would really depend on the game. So I'm glad that is an option. Do you think it would be possible to have Bob be available during one of these other modes, or is that not really technically possible?
I have some ideas for that, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe in the next or a later firmware.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on the game because, like in this, for example, like it looks great with the weave deinterlacing.
And it's also one of those things. If motion adaptive is working, will anybody even use Bob?
Exactly. Once that's
The only
working,
thing I like, Bob, the main thing I like about Bob, the interlacing, is that in videos, it's a really good visual representation of what interlaced content looks like on a CRT.
but like if I were to, let's, and by the way, one kind of cool thing, I'm not sure exactly what you all had to do if you had to talk to Rama or anything. But one neat thing is if you got PS1Digital and XStation in the same PlayStation, and you go to the reset option through the PS1Digital menu, right here you can reset to the XStation loader without getting off your couch.
I mean, you can do the same thing. The DC Digital has the same option for the GDMU and the mode. It's just a really cool way to have them work together, I think.
Yeah, there are some cool features coming up with in working together with the XStation.
Oh, cool. Is there?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything that will allow for like a lid pop to change discs?
Yes, this is already there. This is working.
Okay.
But you have to modify your console a bit for this,
Okay.
and then you can enable a mode where it can do the lid change.
Got it.
And we also I can read. I hope soon I can read the game IDs, and so we can save settings per game.
Oh,
Yeah,
That'd be super cool.
yeah.
I love how sharp, though, with the weave deinterlacing, how sharp like the PlayStation boot up looks. I mean, you know, it's almost like booting up a Dreamcast, you know?
Yeah, it's perfect for static content. The interlacing is way better.
But I just wanted to boot up a 480i game here so I could show people. Yeah, go ahead.
How much more powerful is the hardware compared to between the PS1 Digital and the DC Digital?
They're about the same. That they use the same FPGA.
Okay.
One's in the VGA package, but the PS1 has SD RAM, so it can store frames on that, whereas the DC Digital can't.
I see.
And there is also more clock control on the PS1 Digital as well.
Is that anything that you feel like in the future you might consider swinging back around to upgrading, or is it you don't think it wouldn't even have anything to do? It wouldn't have any benefit.
I mean, we've talked about it.
Oops.
It may be beneficial for those few 480i Dreamcast games.
But also, I mean, you might get some people that are annoyed about it. You know, like, oh, I thought this was because it's already so good. You know, it has to be like a major upgrade, I guess, with a new version.
Yeah, and I guess that's. I mean, I guess if we came out with a new one, I don't think that people should necessarily be upset for innovating. I guess, you know, or people upset that the PS5 came out versus the PS4.
It's true.
I guess it's totally different, but you know what I mean. Like it's our plan wouldn't be to necessarily like make a bunch and then be like we're gonna screw them all over and make another one.
Yeah.
You know.
And you
But, like,
probably
Can
feel like finishing one thing and then you move on to the next thing instead of going back and making tweaks to the older one. You kind of want to, just handle one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people could see, but I was riding around the arena, and weave in a fast-paced action game like this, weave is not really the choice you would want to be making for a game like this. So you would want Bob on for this game. So unless there can be at some point in the future an option for having Bob on during those forced modes, the seamless modes. Right now, really, your only option is to go into the off mode, which is going to have the drop between menus and all. But you can see here now it's bobbing. So now the image, especially like the 3D graphics, like look nice and clear. I feel like when when things
Yeah.
are in motion, like the bobbing doesn't really bother me, and like honestly, my eyes get really used to it. Like when I'm looking at like the life bars at the top.
I mean, it just feels like looking at interlaced things in this area.
Yeah, so it's never been something that bothers me. So that is, you know, for me personally, a feature that if y'all could pull it off, I would definitely love that. But like you said, once motion adaptive is integrated, well, you wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
I mean, technically that would probably have more lag, so I guess people might want Bob in that case. But I would guess most people will go like 240p as is, 480i as motion adaptive. So
Yeah, and I honestly don't know of any game that has a 240p menu and 40i gameplay.
I mean,
So-
I thought
Yeah.
there were games. I might be thinking of N64 though. I want to say there are some
Because the
N64 games.
N64 can only handle menus smoothly. I mean, no, actually not. Really quick, GameStack is saying you might want to lower the audio from the PS1 just a little bit.
Oh really? Maybe this game's just super loud.
There's also a donation, $5 Canadian from Dan. Thank you. Saying, do you guys think that there will ever be an XStation for the PS2? Free McBoot is great, but no hardware PSX support through it is a real bummer.
I agree. That would be. I would prefer a more like designed solution.
Yeah, it would be cool just to have an SD card and just put game in and not have to mess with all of the stuff, you know, whether copying to the hard drive or.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel though, because like all the hard drive stuff is so fleshed out at this point that there's probably less interest and excitement.
I mean, my experience in the past has been that like compatibility can be a little iffy. So that's why I would kind of be more interested in a more design.
But you can usually handle that by changing like the different modes.
Yeah.
I think there's a point though where the average person doesn't want to do that.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
as a kid, I would mess around with that for hours and hours. Now I'd prefer just to like, you know, like an EverDrive, just plug it in and turn it on.
Yeah.
And maybe once Crix makes every console possible, he'll move to disk drives.
You never know.
But see, when you're all right though. This game doesn't. Even though some of these assets in this like character select kind of look like they may have been designed for 480i, I'm not sure, or for 240p. I mean,
Maybe.
but like, there's no drops in this game when you have the bob on because it's not having to go back and forth. So I'm resetting.
So what is the
XStation.
what is the whole reset memory alignment about in the menu?
Okay, this is for the rare cases where you switch in force mode between the two modes and end up with a static line
Oh, okay.
on the
Oh.
screen, and you can just reset and it realigns the images.
Nice. So it's just really easy to access.
Yeah.
then, instead of having to switch modes and switch back to it.
Yes, and hope that you hit the timing for the line to disappear. So,
Yeah. Or you can just hit it again then at that point.
Is there anything any of you guys or anyone in the chat suggests is like an interesting scenario to take a look at?
Yeah. Is there any games that gave you a hard time getting to work? I mean, you have to like sometimes make tweaks on individual game basis if they're not working.
no, not really. You have a lot of graphic modes, but once you have all covered, then it's there. And I haven't found a game which uses non-standard timings. They all have the same timings basically. So
I'm personally pretty like I'm very happy that this came out instead of just going straight to PS2. Like I'm happy that this one because I am realizing just like how much I love the PS1 in these last couple of years. I mean, I even growing up, I never thought I would be like very nostalgic about it, but it is like definitely top 3 system probably for me at this point.
Yeah, I played it quite a bit growing up. And I also do want to point out the BIOS screen on these 5500 X series consoles are. It looks like the PS1 Digital is doing it wrong, but it's Sony that did it wrong.
Really?
So if you look at the 0 on the, you can see that it just doesn't look correct.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Restart the console and you'll notice that the BIOS screen looks not right on the O's.
Oh yeah. Like the artwork.
Yeah.
I thought about that at
Mhm.
first. I thought, oh, is there a scan line that's not like where it should be? But yeah, I mean, you see stuff like that. I'm trying to think if there's an example actually on PlayStation 1, but I've seen that on like I've definitely seen it on like maybe on Dreamcast, GameCube, PS2, where like if you were to look at it on a CRT, you probably wouldn't notice, especially if you were using like composite video, but like the artwork is just badly scaled.
Well,
Yeah.
it also just like the clarity of the HDMI brings out certain aspects that you would never even see anyway else. I mean, the one I always think of is the first time I tried the DC Digital. You can see on the boot up screen, you can see like dithering. It's got like a big blob of dithering. It's almost like they had a white image and they cut out a big transparency in the middle.
I actually think that's also BIOS because I've seen some. I should have tracked these, but I've seen some where it's not as pronounced.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And I've seen some people say they say that the Dreamcast is bad and those ones shouldn't be used. But I think it's just a different BIOS version.
I say, huh? I had no idea. I mean, I
And
remember the first time I saw it, I was like, it would never have been able to notice that.
By the
I
way,
assumed that-
one interesting thing as I start the game here, Dan had asked me to go to when I was just testing some stuff out. You said go to the test and info page, and when I hit the R button, it skipped. It skipped the FMV, but there's like on this screen when you're playing an FMV, there's all of these signals and like hearts under them. Like what's the deal with that, and why does that only appear during FMVs?
It only appears in 24-bit RGB mode
Oh, okay.
because only then you're able to see all the signals, all the 24 color signals.
I
coming from
see.
the
I
GPU.
see. So that is basically
we
just
wanted-
confirming that every single bit of color is getting through.
Yes, and I'm also checking if it has both states and if it has different states than the pins nearby, so you can be sure there are no bridges and stuff.
I should have brought down one of my memory cards that actually has a Chrono Cross save. Although I don't know what happened to the saves from when I like beat this game several times back in the day. I don't know why I don't have any. Maybe I overwrote them with my new game pluses. I don't know. But anyway, everyone knows the whole Chrono Cross thing. And boom, here we are. There's like in this game, you see you don't see it in like Silent Hill for some reason, but like in here, like when you switch back and forth, you see just like a tiny like 1 frame shift to the side. I mean, that I'm assuming that's like behavior just specific to the game.
Yeah, like Dino Crisis is an immediate switch. Chrono Cross is pretty slow.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of the most famous examples, even though it's a very divisive game.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone calls it the Chrono Cross problem.
Yeah, or I don't know. Like I started calling it that. I don't know if did we cause that? I don't know. But see, here's a good example of where the weave deinterlacing is just doing a fantastic job. You've got this spinning character here, but he's not really moving significantly. So, like, if you look at like maybe the very edges of his blade as it turns, like you can see a little bit of combing. But like, if I would be completely happy playing Chrono Cross this way because I just don't care that much about how the little itty bitty idiosyncrasies of how the menu may look. I just want it to work. And it is looking good. With Kid here, it's a little more noticeable because of the way that her animation bounces. You see a little more combing on her legs and on her dagger. But still, like, this is great for menu use, I think. Like, this is totally a step above anything that you could do before. The closest thing was really playing them emulated on a PS3. But this is sharper, looks better, should have less lag in theory as far as I know. But yeah, there you have it. This is Chrono Cross giving you no problems at all.
The thing I thought was so funny is with getting the system with the XStation in it is how it's completely silent now. After it's always been such a loud system. The disk drive in it is always so loud. And I had a similar situation when I first got an ODE equipped Saturn, where it's like, oh my gosh, it's like an old, like a pre-CD-ROM console where it doesn't make any sounds.
I mean, the new systems are almost that way because their fans are so gigantic that they make hardly any sound at all.
The OSSC drops signals. It drops signal when it switches resolutions.
Yeah, OSSC cannot do this. Cannot do this game very well at all. I mean, in Chrono Cross, the reality of it is, there's a possibility a monster might chase you and initiate a battle, when you didn't want it to or something. Now this menu is not, this is the after battle menu. These are 240p. In all likelihood, this is not an action game. It's not going to get you killed. Silent Hill, Dino Crisis, those games will get you killed.
Dr. Payne Christian in the chat is asking, when can we expect the second batch of PS1 Digitals? This was only your first batch? I thought you had already done a couple.
So no, we've just done one batch, and then the second batch will hopefully be here next week.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's got to be, you just have no idea, especially with the way things are.
Well,
things are
you usually
right now.
do, but sometimes there's part delays, and they'll just have to hold for parts to come in. So it just, I don't want to say it's a crapshoot, but it's usually around 45 days turnaround time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this one's been a little bit longer. I think we're almost at 50, 55 days now.
Oh, wow.
So now, I don't know if it'll happen here, but I've forced 480i timings, and there I just saw one. There was a slight screen tear. So, again, if you're playing a game that is primarily 240p and your TV doesn't like the variable mode, but see, right now, still it's not having a drop, but there can be screen tearing on this mode. But if I go back, advanced scaler settings, either force 240p or any of these modes, there should be no drop between them. It's just a matter of how your TV handles each one and what your priority is here. I should really try this overclock mode a little more than I have, because so in theory the game, you couldn't be a speedrunner doing this, but in theory the game is running like 0.17% faster or something like that.
Yeah, like 0.2%.
And that doesn't, as far as ever affect it doesn't throw off the XStation, or it doesn't throw off running a disc. Obviously in this particular console the disc drive is removed, so it's a non-issue, but that doesn't impact, it doesn't throw off the read times or anything. What about during an FMV, where the FMV, wouldn't the especially if you're using a laser system, would there not be no issue there with the speed difference?
Yeah, I asked that myself, but I couldn't find any issues with that.
I mean, it's so
And,
interesting. 'Cause, I mean, it's
and the GPU has its own clock, so it's not like anything other in the system is altered by the.
Yeah, the
Changes.
XStation has its own separate clock.
Mhm.
yeah.
There was a $5 donation from Aaron Welch who says, should PS1 games on a PS2 with PS2 Digital installed look the same as a PS1 with PS1 Digital installed? I mean, of course, that's probably getting far ahead of everything right now. But I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that you learn during this time that they will make development for the PS2 Digital a lot easier. But I mean, should that in theory be the case?
They should be the same. I think that you might run into issues with. I know that some of the certain PS2 models didn't necessarily play back PS1 games perfectly.
Mhm.
I know that list is pretty small.
Yeah.
But I think there were some weird graphical glitches
Yeah.
or.
I mean, there's not that many that I personally have observed. I mean, the one that's easiest for me to always show is that the way that the moon works in this one particular area in Symphony of the Night, like it's
There's
got
like a,
some
like,
sort.
dithering you
It's
see.
got this like dithering overlay, and it does this kind of cool like bloom lighting effect as it goes behind like the castle walls and stuff, and it just behaves a little strangely on PS2, but yeah, right. But basically, a game that is operating identically on PS1 and a PS2, the functionality is expected to be the same. But by the time that PS2 Digital launches, you should have that motion adaptive deinterlacing integrated, and that will work across this mod and the future mod. So there's no, you don't need to worry if you're getting the PS1 Digital now. Motion adaptive will still work on it when the firmware supports it.
Right. And PS2 Digital isn't going to be your next one anyways. You've already teased on social media. You've shown some Xbox stuff.
Yes, correct.
How far off do you think that is at this point?
We've actually got a lot. We've got a lot of stuff in the works right now, so
Mhm.
it's hard to give ETAs.
Yeah.
But it's definitely real, and it's not. I mean, it'll get done eventually.
One of the interesting things that I guess in the roadmap for the PS1 Digital is the use of Wi-Fi for like serial, for like since the serial port is being like essentially removed, you can do like a system link via Wi-Fi in the future. Is that basically what the goal is?
Yes.
That'd be so cool. It's so much more convenient, especially since I don't even know how easy it is to get those cables. But I mean, that you were thinking about doing something very similar with the Xbox, where you're going to do like the network over Wi-Fi, which would be
Yes, exactly. And like I said, there was going to be an option to keep a LAN jack as well, so you could choose which one you wanted.
Mhm.
So you could use a LAN jack if you think it's going to be faster to transfer your bulk of games over to the hard drive,
right.
and then use the ESP for the Wi-Fi for like multiplayer.
Okay.
Because those older systems didn't use much bandwidth for multiplayer
Right.
games.
I just wanted
I mean, I
to
don't
beat
even
this
know how
up
many games,
because
like, use-
pixel game.
Yeah, it's just a good looking.
You can really, there's a lot of dithering used on the floor, and in the sky in this level, so it's kind of good for eyeballing pixels.
The HQX Stage 2 actually does a pretty good job at removing the dithering. And it doesn't blur it as much as you would think.
Yeah, I was let's see, where is that? Advanced settings.
Yeah.
Can you use you can use HQX when you're in the no drop mode. Or wait, no, you can't. Or can you?
So that's just like it's just a filter that softens like some of the dithering.
Do I have to have the to use that? I have to have this set to off, don't I? Maybe.
Yes, I guess. Yeah, I'm.
Now, like this game.
Yeah.
This game may not be the most ideal game to use on, but I mean, I'm usually not a fan of these kind of settings, but when I first turned it on, I can't remember what I had booted up, but I think it was like some RPG. It was an RPG. I can't remember what it was, but it had, kind of a more like artistic sort of script for the font. And it really kind of actually made that look a lot like smoother and curvier. So, I mean, I could see like kind of a game by game basis, maybe there are some use cases for that filter. But one reason I wanted to bring up this game was like if you go into the scaler settings, you can see like what resolution you're on, but you can also set like per resolution settings if for any reason you wanted like to really maximize like what you're doing. And I think like there might be would there be some different settings here possibly if I was in 1080p mode instead of 960p mode?
Yes, I guess. I don't remember.
I love how you can just do 1x if you want though. So like if you're like a real like stickler for square pixels or whatever, like it's not going to work in every game. But like one thing that I did notice is I mean, it kind of depends on the situation. Like, okay, this is 240 or 320 by 240. So like 4x, like that's actually what I would get in this game if I have auto, I believe.
Yes.
Because it's, I mean, it's actually technically a little wider than I would usually see it on a CRT. But like, if you crunch the numbers, I mean, 320 by 240 is 4:3.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is true 4:3, even though, we are getting square pixels in this case. But, if I mean, let's go ahead and reset back to the XStation because this, let's go ahead and start playing Spyro 2 like I said I would, because that is a higher resolution game on the horizontal axis. It's what is it, 512?
Mm-hmm.
And Dan was saying the other day, there's like what? How many did you say? There's like 10 resolutions the system can output or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's close to that. Half being PAL resolutions though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically 5 horizontal and then 240 and for ADI and then the same in PAL.
Yeah, it's interesting, like sort of the differences between how like the 512 mode is used on the PlayStation versus how it's used on like the Super Nintendo, because it's kind of I think it's used kind of differently on the Super Nintendo. Like it's often used like, I'm not really sure if this is how it works, but it almost seems to me in some cases they might use it on like a per scan line basis. Like I don't think the whole screen has to be 512 mode. I don't know if y'all know that much about Super Nintendo, but like I don't know if Joe from GameStack is still watching, but I believe he said that he has this Super Nintendo that like every time a text box pops up in Chrono Trigger, like the signal drops on like certain TVs or something. I think because you don't really see it in the American version because the text is kind of chunky, but like in the Japanese versions of like a lot of RPGs and stuff, they use this high resolution text because the Japanese text is a lot more readable at a higher horizontal resolution. But this game, if I bring up this menu, you can see that this game is, in fact, 512 pixels wide. So I think maybe the purpose of that was to maybe make the dithering a little more high frequency so that it was maybe less noticeable.
We should go on vacation. Somewhere warm. Somewhere sunny.
like obviously here, you know, in this kind of environment, you can see the dithering, you know, on a digital output, and for me, I am a-okay looking at dithering. Some people can't stand it, so for those people, you know, maybe this ain't for you. Although you can, I guess, turn on the HQX, and I guess that would, like, especially in a game like this that uses much more high frequency, I guess I would call it, dithering. You're probably right. It probably would hide that, and maybe I should turn that on once the game actually properly starts here.
Yeah, but currently it's not available in 512.
Oh, okay. Well, then I won't turn that on.
It's only available in 320 and 640.
Oh, okay. Well,
When
but you know
horizontal.
that doesn't bother me. You know, people who absolutely hate dithering are probably not even considering buying this mod.
Yeah.
Personally, I just like to see it all. Just show it to me all. You know, I'm okay looking at it.
There's a couple of donations I missed. I want to hit.
Okay.
There's a donation from Jonathan Hinson with $2. Thank you. It says, I'm thankful for cool nerds like you guys. Thank you. There's also $5 from Whiskey Vengeance, saying a question for Dan and Christoph. Know you guys have a lot of projects already in the works, but do you think you might do an N64 digital mod at some point?
I mean, nothing's off the table. So, but yeah, I mean, there's I don't want to say there's so many consoles, but there's quite a few out there that are still, you know,
still without
Yeah.
HDMI.
I mean, there's definitely ones that you've told us in the past before, you know, would be likely extremely difficult, like Genesis or Saturn.
Yeah.
Because of like the way the VDP is set up. Like you would probably have to come up with a FPGA replacement for one of the VDPs, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that'd be probably more trouble than it is ultimately worth at that point.
Uh-oh,
Yeah, I mean, at that point, almost just getting a Mega SG is the way to go from Genesis if you're wanting that.
Yeah.
I
Perfect HDMI.
I don't know if this is something to report back to Rama. The cutscene audio stopped at some point in that cutscene.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably has to make changes on especially for the XStation. Probably has to make per game changes.
Yeah, I know there's some weird timing requirements on the data coming in.
Yeah.
And he told me he had me test one game, and it was some Disney jungle singing game, and he said it was the most timing critical game of the PlayStation. He was like Jungle Book something, like Jungle Book sing along.
Something that like nobody plays. There's $5 from Mitch B saying, love the PS1Digital, waiting on the second batch. What are your thoughts on Stadia? I got my free controller in the mail today. Feature or gimmick?
Well, speaking of which,
yeah, I mean, I got my free controller in the mail on Friday, and I haven't opened it. I mean, I don't know.
I kind of think it's going to be the future, whether people want it or not. But I don't think it's going to be. Maybe the model will be the future eventually, but I don't think it's going to be Stadia.
Oh,
not Stadia, but I mean the cloud gaming.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope not. I mean, I don't. I mean, there will always be benefits to local hardware, I think. I mean, it's hard to imagine that there wouldn't be.
Eventually, probably like we're too old to care.
I still see it as the whole digital versus physical media. To me, physical media is a lot better, but everybody's willing to spend $100 less for a cheaper console.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, you think about like, I look at like, you know, the digital deluxe version of, you know, all of these AAA games that are coming out, and they're like $120 for like you don't even get something to put on your shelf, and it's $100. Like I can unless it was some sort of like productivity software. Like I cannot imagine spending $120 on a like, would I spend $120 on, you know, a Mega Drive game like Monster World 4? Yes. But I could not spend that on, I'll buy digital games if there's no other way to play it, but like I'm not spending $120 on a digital game.
But people like us are not the market. They're not who they're aiming.
I know.
Yeah, there's probably people out there that think we're crazy that we're willing to get up and put a physical game in a console.
And they're probably like, why do you have how do you have space for all that? I mean,
but
it's true. I mean, it's not like, I mean, eventually, you know, unless you have like a gigantic house, you're gonna run out of space for all of it.
But you know what? I mean, that's why we are modding our PlayStations for HDMI and ODEs, so that once everything is Stadia streaming, we've still got something to waste our time with when we're unwilling to go streaming.
So there's $5 from Warren Hokey saying, if PS1Digital is a 10 out of 10 quality, what would PS1 emulation on a stock PS3 rate? Well, it's unevenly scaled, so you'd get like the shimmering on the PS1, but PS1 on the PS3 looks really good.
I mean, it is relatively soft, but especially considering when the system came out, like, I still think it holds up. Like, I mean, I would say when a game has smooth scaling on a PS3, like, I don't mean like turn on smooth in the option. Like, there's the uneven sharp scaling that happens in some disc games, and I have no idea why. I don't know if anyone knows what determines that and what doesn't. But if you've got one of the normal ones or the download, like, I would say that's like comparable to like maybe to like Retrode sharpness, maybe. Like, it's still like relatively like pixely looking. But yeah, like certain disc games like Suikoden, Valkyrie Profile, several games, if you pop in the disc versus the download, for whatever reason, certain games, not most, but certain games are a sharp, uneven, non-integer scale. But like this, for example, on Spyro here, you know, this is this 512 wide game, you know, and it is appropriately interpolated. You know, if you get your nose right up to the screen, 512 is appropriately interpolated. So you don't, you know, you wouldn't likely see shimmer in a 3D game like this anyway. I don't know if any 2D games use 512 mode.
Say that again.
I don't know if any 2D games use 512 mode.
Probably could find out, but yeah, I don't know any off the top of my head. Actually, before we get off the PS3, do you know if the launch models handle PS1 better since it has the separate motion engine chip, or is it the same Star?
My understanding is I don't know that I don't have any like hard facts to back this up, but I've heard from people who seem to be smart that it was always emulation. But what's interesting is that I mean, obviously PS2 games are handled better, like from a technical perspective, on the launch models. You know, there are issues like, you know, one really weird issue, like just, it's such a specific thing, that I personally ran into, is in Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 2, on a not launch PS2. There's like a good ways into the game, there's just like a box that you need for a puzzle, and the box does not spawn. Which is like such a weird and specific thing. It's not like graphics falling apart or something. There's just like an object you need for the gameplay that does not spawn. So weird. But beyond that, the launch models and the later models that don't have like the full emotion engine, or I think I forget what it. Yeah, I think they both have the graphics synthesizer, but only one has the emotion engine. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I think there was
Yeah.
two levels, or I think you're right.
But they do look different too, like over HDMI. That's so weird because you would think that the scaling functionality of the systems would be the same, but they aren't. One thing that is interesting to me about the PS2 backwards compatibility, and I do think it is like possibly like the best visual representation of PS2 games on HDTV. It is really good, but it does use the interlacing. You know, it doesn't like force 480p or anything like that because I guess some of those games are field rendered. They literally only have one field at a time, so you can't force 480 in a lot of games. And you can actually see de-interlacing, motion adaptive de-interlacing errors in certain circumstances on the PS3. One example I really like is Contra Shattered Soldier, because it does the very classic 60 hertz flicker when your character dies and then respawns. You know, I don't know if a lot of games on the PS2 really do that, but Contra Shattered Soldier does do that. So you can see de-interlacing errors like on the FrameMeister. You can see it on your regular TV. You can see it on the PS3. But what's interesting is Contra Shattered Soldier also has, when they later on introduced like select download games that were pure emulation on the PS3. Shattered Soldier is one of those games, and it doesn't do that. And I'm pretty sure that's a field rendered game. So it's interesting to me that they were able to somehow presumably force 480p, I guess, because I don't know how you could get around that 60 hertz flicker in a interlaced output without having de-interlacing errors. I don't even know if it's possible.
I don't know. All right, so so people were saying that my voice is really low. I upped my microphone volume. Let me know if it's too loud or if it sounds okay now.
Yeah, we had a lot of trouble with Corey's microphone before.
I don't
the
know
stream.
if it changed, but there was a $24.99 super chat from our good friend Sutton. Thank you.
Old Paul Sutton.
Has a very very similar feeling on this generation as I do, which would make sense. I mean, him and I are close to the same age. Said I spent the 32-bit generation hating 3D, but this stuff looks so good to me now. I like seeing the artistic choices and how the color, geometry, and textures, or lack thereof, work together to paint such a charming picture. It's true.
I was on board with 3D. Like, I was not until I saw Mario 64, and then I was like, I didn't like start hating 2D games or anything, but I was very much on board with 3D from the beginning. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons that Mario 64 like didn't become a big thing for you like it did for me. But yeah, what's interesting, both, even from the first Spyro game, that was a game with DualShock support. So these are games made well into the PS1's life. So this visually, the Spyro games just hold up so well, especially with that high res horizontal. I do think it kind of adds a lot to the look of the game as well.
There was also a $4.99 super chat from Stu Blazinski saying, Dan and Christoph, thanks for dedicating your engineering skills on gaming. I have the PS1 and DC Digital, and I love them. Vagrant Story is great with Stage 2 filter.
Oh, I could see that.
That's a lot of dithering going on in Vagrant Story.
Yeah,
It's such a dirty looking game,
Mm-hmm.
so it would probably work really well on that. Dan and Christoph, is there any games that you specifically like? What were some of the first games that you tested out with this?
Probably
Oh,
Need for Speed 2 was probably my very first game.
Oh, really?
Hmm
Are you a big Need for Speed fan?
I just grew up with that, and then
Mhm.
you know, Resident Evil. Those are the two big games I played on the PS1.
One thing I really like about a lot of PS1 games is, and I believe Resident Evil is one of them. I think a lot of pre-rendered background games, in fact, might actually do this. They use the full 240 vertical height. Like it will fill the screen from top to bottom. You know, especially like on this, if you use 960p. I haven't actually tried Resident Evil, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that in like OSSC recordings and stuff where there are no black bars in a lot of those games, and that's really pretty uncommon in the 240p era. I'm not sure. Maybe it's relatively common on Saturn. I'm not sure. Like N64 usually has pretty thick bars, and of course, you know, Super Nintendo always has bars. It's, you know, it's always like 240, 224 high.
Yeah, but I don't know if you can compare PS1 to those 16-bit consoles though. You know,
Yeah,
240p wise.
right. But it is interesting to me that, you know, I mean, that information, you know, the top to bottom information oftentimes was probably missing on a CRT. But it is, I feel like a retroactive benefit when you're playing it on your HDTV with OSSC or with like the PS1Digital. It does fill it from top to bottom. This game does not. But there are PS1 games that do that.
I think there was somebody earlier said, is it true that the PS1Digital doubles as a mod chip?
Oh yes.
You can, like, it has to do
Yes.
certain things so that it can.
Yeah, you have to hook up 4 wires, and
Mhm.
then you can use it as a PS1 mod chip. hmm
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you only if you're using disc-based games, you
Yes.
can just make it region free by simply installing PS1 Digital.
Correct.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy.
There's also $5 through Super Chat from Container7 with no message. Thank you. And for the love of the game, donated $5 through Super Chat as well, saying, sorry to ruin the PS1 party, but Vandal Hearts on Saturn just got translated.
Oh, to go back to the original question about the first games booted up, I imagine Christoph's was the 240p test suite.
Yes. Exactly.
Currently, probably his favorite game or
Yes,
most
my
hated game
favorite
now
game.
at this point.
Yeah.
I've been spending a little bit of time with the NES version today to test out the NT Mini Noir.
I don't think I realized there was a. I don't think I knew there was a PS1 240p test suite.
Yeah, it's a port. It's not an official release,
okay.
so to speak. Yeah.
But yeah,
There's-
Christoph had to make some updates to it too to get what we needed.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't even know there was a PS1 version of it.
Yes, as I said, it's a port of the.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the
Someone-
when I-
Well, the
when I was
NES
talking about
one
the
is also a port, like
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know. But I mean, I know Artemio is fully supportive of the NES one.
Issue.
I don't know any. Since I don't know anything about the PS1 one, I'm not sure who made it, but
Yeah, it's on GitHub. It's pretty good because and I changed it so I can generate all resolutions
Mhm.
in all modes.
Oh.
So it's pretty good for testing.
yeah, I definitely would like to put it on my my XStation memory card
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
because
Same here.
Yeah, I will. I have to do some tweaks and then I will release it on
Nice.
GitHub. So
by the
I
way,
can't-
that
you
kind of
admit-
makes me think. I can you? I mean, presently I have no reason to do this, but can you output analog while using HDMI out?
That's on the with the PS1 Digital.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite thing about the DC Digital and the PS1 Digital is that you don't have to sacrifice one or the other. You can do them both at the same time, which makes it the best choice for anybody who's looking to play on a CRT and stream.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's
I mean, I assumed that was the case, but I didn't actually know.
yeah. I mean, then you can have you can have that light gun support and everything. I mean, it's like is definitely the
pinnacle.
like, yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's my favorite thing. Like one of my favorite things about it is that you don't feel like you got to make a choice. You just get both.
And that's why on the Xbox we went through a lot of discussions that we want to keep the analog output on that.
Because there's a lot of the ones that exist already just remove the analog completely, and that's why I don't even want to consider them really, because I don't want to lose one or the other, because it makes it very nice to record comparisons.
Yeah.
Like with two capture cards that can record both the exact same thing at the same time.
Before we change the subject, I want to give a shout out to my mom, who is currently watching, and my nephew Ian, who is also watching. So
thanks for tuning in.
I never thought my mom would ever turn on a gaming channel on YouTube.
There's a $2 donation from Jonathan G saying, "Can you install PS1 Digital on a PSO trace cut system?" I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay. And there's also $10. Thank you from Chris Fratz saying, "Hey, how you guys doing? Sorry I'm an hour late. I just pre-ordered Sam & Max Save the World Remastered. I'm really excited to play through the game as my backlog for a few years. I didn't even realize that was coming out. I have some on the PS3 that I've never played. One of those episodic things. Like to buy but never play." There is also a $5 from EB Chill 2 saying, if you can, Christoph, if you want to read that.
Christoph, vielen Dank für Ihre harte Arbeit und Exzellenz. I got straight D's in German. Pretty good.
I took German in high school, but it's been a long time ago. Ich spreche schlechte Deutsch.
Sehr gut.
I think we've talked about it a little bit. I mean, I wonder if in the future, I guess, when the pandemic is in the past, do you think you'll ever get a chance to meet up with John Linneman, who's like fairly? I mean, he's in Germany as well. I'm not sure how close.
Yeah. No, it's not far away. He's in Frankfurt. Or near Frankfurt. Yeah.
I think talked about meeting up with him this year, but we kind of had plans for PAX, I think, wasn't it?
Gamescom.
Or Gamescom, sorry.
Yeah.
Right. I remember you guys talking about that last year. I mean, that's...
Yeah, when was it that you went over to Germany, Dan? I forget.
Oh, has it been 2 years now? Or was it last year? It was last year. And this time it's...
Who even knows anymore?
It's the weirdest thing. It's felt like the longest, like 10 months, and the shortest at the same time. I can't believe that that Thanksgiving is in just a few days, and
it does feel like a long time.
But it also doesn't feel like it has been as long as it has been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least for me, it doesn't. Maybe it's just every day tends to blur together, especially when you have kids home every day. Every day feels like the same thing. I can't even imagine how it feels for them. It's like that feeling of when you're growing up, the summers felt like they were a million times longer than they actually were.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of the things that makes me so sad is that because of all this, John isn't going to be coming back to Cincinnati this year. to visit family. So that means it's going to be the end of our live stream in-person streak that we had there for 4 years. Oh well. Hopefully next year. Hopefully next year.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And let's see here. There was there's $2 from Warren Hoagie saying, "Does the PS1 Digital handle the Chrono Cross problem?" And yep. It's completely taken care of.
We demonstrated it earlier.
Yep. So after the stream is over, check out the archive to see how well it
Yeah,
works.
we showed a variety of like 480i and 240p scenarios to sort of show what the current state of things is.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as it's a thing with PS1 games, I feel like the Saturn really has a problem.
Oh
with
yeah.
switching between like the 240p and then the high res mode.
Well,
Like,
you know,
just
it
happens constantly.
It kind of does a thing similar to what like certain Konami games on the Genesis do, where there's just like some sort of signal hitch like between screen transitions. And I don't know why, but
It's just like zooming in and out. You just like. I'm impressed with the quality of the digital zoom.
I can't say enough good things about the fireplace background.
Yeah.
Is that a real fireplace or is it gas?
It's gas.
I have not seen like a real fire in a real fireplace, like, and I couldn't tell you how many years. Like, I don't think they exist anymore.
It's pretty common here in Germany to have a real fireplace with wood.
Like
wood.
in new houses too.
Yes,
Oh
absolutely.
man, yeah, I just don't think that really exists here anymore.
But not for heating, just for pleasure.
Yep. I mean, I'm excited to see how much warmer this house is compared to my old one. I guess throughout the winter, even though I was here during the winter last year, I didn't really think too much
Did your
about
basement get cold?
It did not nearly as much as not as cold as the attic did in the old house.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a big difference. We're hoping for Christmas we're gonna get one of those smart thermostats, the Nest. We're thinking. See how that goes.
So it makes your house colder?
Well, no, we can just like adjust it, you know. Like,
Because that's how they want you to save money. Just make it real cold, or real
Yeah.
hot.
But I mean, at the old house, it was, there was furnaces on every floor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, your old house was like the coldest place in the world in the winter.
Yeah, well, the attic was very cold. All the time.
Your old place was really, I don't know, really quaint and comfy and cozy, I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't really miss it, but I mean, it was good for the time that we had it. What's kind of interesting is the person who bought it turned it into apartments, and one of my wife's coworkers is renting the second floor. So she's been there to see, like, she's gone over there to check it out, and it's kind of interesting. It's like, oh, his kitchen is now what were my kids' rooms, and like our playroom is his living room, and it's kind of weird because his bedroom is like my wife and I's bedroom. So it's like it feels kind of weird. But I have not been over there. They're planning on painting the outside. It's probably a good choice. It'll no longer be pinkish, reddish pink. But I don't know. I'm happy that we moved at the time that we moved, because that's given me a lot of time to work on this house too. And Dan, you did a bunch of work to your house fairly recently too.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. It's like something always breaks. It seems like
Yeah.
it's not if, it's when.
How old is that house? When was it built?
Oh, 64, I think. So it's not crazy old.
Oh wow. It did.
But-
I mean, it didn't feel. I mean, it definitely. I mean, when we were there, like I mean, it had clearly been updated because it did not feel like a 64 house to me.
That's kind of good, I guess.
I mean, it felt, it felt up to date. How long have you lived
Chris,
there?
Hey Sam, how long have we lived here? 4 years? 3.5 years.
Oh, okay. So you hadn't lived there long at all when we went there.
No, we had just moved recently. So our other house was too small. Our house was 1,200 square feet, and Sam calls it my bachelor pad.
Christoph, is your lab there set up like in your attic, or it looks like it might be in your attic?
Yes, it's it's a second apartment we rented in the house.
Oh, okay.
And it's
So before
my
you
lab.
got before you got together with Dan, what kind of were you doing? Like a lot of other like video game focused work?
No, not at all.
What was the lure that kind of got you interested in it?
I got interested in FPGAs, and then it started. And I was looking for a project,
Mhm.
and then I had this Dreamcast, and so it began.
Did you play a lot of games before?
Not recently.
I mean,
If I play, I'm playing on mobile, and now,
Yeah.
So
that seems
and
to
a
be a
big
common
hand- big-
thing.
yeah.
Like in the, I know that Jason from Game Tech, he
Mhm.
barely plays games.
Yeah,
And, you know,
it's just
more
for
of a-
testing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just more of just like a challenge. Like, how can I do this more so than it is like, I'm gonna do this and I'm going to enjoy it. After like, I'm gonna enjoy the results, but it's kind of just, it's more
Yeah,
like just like doing it is and figuring it out is the more fulfilling aspect of it.
Yes, exactly. This is the fun.
Yeah, I mean that's that's something that we've talked to a lot of people about, and I think that's kind of going to be that's a theme I'm kind of going to bring up in the final third part of Analog Frontiers is the hardware and tinkering with the hardware is like a valid way to get enjoyment out of this hardware, like beyond just the games. A lot of people say that it's all about the gameplay. It can only be about the gameplay, and nothing else is important. And gameplay is very important, but all of the other aspects to it, and even just the hardware like that, there is nothing wrong with that being like your main point of interaction with something. If that is what interests you and draws you to it, then I think that's a super fascinating thing that I think a lot of people don't really talk or don't really think about. I think it's going to be interesting to people when that kind of comes up in Analog Frontiers Part 5, because that was a recurring theme with a lot of people that we talked to.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, I can relate to it a little bit too, because just as time has gone on, like especially since moving and like figuring out like how to get everything set up and working, and just like even the handyman type stuff that I've learned since moving, like I've been feeling a lot more fulfilled by that than a lot of things lately. Where I'm constantly looking for new things to do just to see if I can do it. I mean, it's been a big thing that's
totally
kept me
get it.
going.
And honestly, you only have so much. I mean, I don't want to say that we have like addictive personalities, but once you kind of get involved in something, you kind of all your focus kind of goes into something.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And I do know if I do start playing a game, I become focused on that game.
hmm
So, in a way, sometimes it's better for me not to start.
But it's got to hook you in a way that makes you feel like you want to
Yeah.
get into it that much.
hmm
And it's
Yeah, and there's some games like, when the Switch came out and everybody was playing Zelda,
Mhm.
it's like I don't have 100 hours to put into a game.
right.
And
I actually played it. Yes, I did.
And did you finish it?
Yes.
Yeah, so did we. I mean, it was like definitely over 100 hours for both of us, and it was great. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I
I
definitely
finished.
think
I
that's...
played it through the first lockdown period here.
Oh. I mean, like, I definitely think it's got to be like the best game of the past many years for sure.
yeah,
did you play on the light or the full size, Christoph?
No, on the. You mean the Switch yet? No.
Yeah, like the light or the full
No,
size.
I have the normal Switch, but I'm playing on the handheld.
Yeah,
I haven't
handheld mode.
connected it to the television at all.
It's so interesting. I thought, I play handheld games, but mostly only because, some games I want to play them and they are on a handheld, and so you play them there. But like, I'm very much into mods like the GBA Consolizer, where I like to put the handheld games on my TV. So I definitely thought, like, I'm not going to use the Switch handheld that much, but it's surprising how nice it is to have that mix. I mean, I would honestly say I probably play Switch, TV versus handheld, like relatively close to 50-50. I mean, it's such a surprisingly great core feature to the system.
Yeah.
there was a oh god.
No, go ahead.
There's a $2 donation from our good friend Dustin Kramer.
Oh, thank
saying
you.
the season is upon us. What are your favorite holiday games? And I want to say Christmas Nights. A safe, but my mind immediately went to it.
I saw when I was looking at the games I loaded up on my XStation, I saw that the Easter Bunny's Big Day was on there. Maybe I should see how that is sometime. In terms of like a Christmas game, what's
I can't think of any other game.
Yeah,
I mean,
is there anything that takes place in the
I just started thinking
winter?
of movies.
Oh, the Die Hard trilogy.
Yeah, there you go. That's always the
Die Hard Arcade.
there you go.
It's not really.
No, Die Hard Arcade, I would definitely. I mean, it
It's
probably doesn't even take place at
Although
Christmas.
Spider-Man Miles Morales takes place during
Oh
Christmas.
yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And it's very good.
All those games are probably that are out there. The old games are probably based on movies. Like, did they do a Jingle All the Way game?
That might be the only Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that did not get a game. That and Twins, I guess.
Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah. There's a
Oh yeah,
question
Home
from-
Alone. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Someone
Home
just put
Alone.
that in the chat.
There was a question from Samacom asking me, like, Coury, how does your wife handle how much of your time and money the channel and gaming in general consume?
Don't know if we get into those conversations.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, we don't really talk about, like, I guess, like, the channel like that much. I think that she's probably just like sick of hearing about it, and I mean, I don't blame her to have like not a lot of interest in it. I mean, she's always very supportive about stuff related to it, but we don't if I say, oh, I got to do this thing for it, that's like basically at the beginning and the end of the conversation.
Yeah, it's like a job. It's like your job. It's not your,
Right.
how to say it, but.
And in terms of like games and stuff, I mean, there is like I'll play games in the evening, but it's kind of interesting, and I guess mainly since moving and since the beginning of the pandemic, I found like I've been doing a lot more game time, like by waking up early and playing in the morning before getting into like work for my real job. So that's when I've been doing a lot of it recently.
Do you play with Monty at all?
I mean, the kids occasionally. Monty is really big into watching me play games. He always comes down and is like, Dad, can I watch you play games? And if I have something that I have some time for, then I definitely will. But I was like playing Spider-Man Remastered. I was importing my save file because the new update allowed you to bring in the save file from the PS4 version into the new version, and he saw that and he's like, his eyes about like bulged out of his head when he saw it, and he's like, he just wanted to play, so I just like gave him the controller, and he just like is just running around, and I swear like he's just like he has to like be standing the entire time he plays. He can't sit down and play. He has to like be standing, and he's like, oh, like yelling about everything, like running around, like shooting webs like all over people, like on the street.
You said you were trying to play Pokemon with him, and he was just like running in circles.
I mean, I wanted to play Pokemon because we had a really good time playing Pokemon Snap, like back in probably April or so. But I thought it'd be fun to get, one of the new Pokemon, and I could like read it to him and we play it. But all he wanted was like to take the controller and basically like run around. So that did not go as well as I had planned, and we haven't really played it since.
Look at look at this, and Insomniac has been doing ray tracing since the PS1 days. Yeah, this is totally real ray tracing, isn't it? Yeah.
But just in general, I mean, I think I was talking recently. I don't think that my wife has watched anything on the channel probably since like the first year. I mean, if she sees me share something, she'll share it, but I don't think that she has any interest in watching it. And I don't blame her. Probably because it's just like she's probably excited about it at first because she's like, oh, Corey will just like, this will be his hobby and stuff for like maybe a year or two. You know what I mean? Like, probably didn't expect me to still be doing this stuff, 7 years later. So it's probably just like, she probably feels it's just like better not to think about it. But I mean, she's been extremely supportive of it. But
that's great.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, she probably absorbs certain things, like if she walks in and sees me like editing something, she'll absorb a little bit of it then, but maybe she just feels like, oh, it's like be kind of weird watching it now.
She's like, I see you every day. Why do I need to watch you on TV?
Exactly. It's like, I don't care what I don't care what you have to say about this thing. I mean, if the kids are playing a game, they're like, Mommy, watch me play this, and she's like, I don't do that. I don't watch other people play video games. And little does she know that is one of the most popular things for kids to do these days. Whether they, I mean, even though my kids probably have no idea that like Twitch is a thing that exists.
I mean, people liked watching video games back in the day. I would.
Yeah, I like to go to friends' house, and
Yeah.
that's how I consumed a lot of like PlayStation 1 stuff
Yeah.
before I had a system myself.
Yeah,
I
like-
remember going over to my friend's house, and that's how I first saw Resident Evil. Was I watched a friend play all the way through Resident Evil for the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah, I mean, I watched friends play. A lot of the Resident Evil games, and that's why I kind of didn't really get into them until they started coming out on GameCube, because I was just like, I don't know if this looks like something I want to play, but eventually I got really into it. But it's that was same thing with RPGs. Like I would watch friends play RPGs, but I thought they looked boring to play until eventually I tried the right ones and they finally clicked with me.
Yeah. So what do you think is what is the more difficult install between the DC Digital and the PS1 Digital?
I would say the DC is easier, but the PS1 is faster.
What makes it easier?
So the DC digital pins are spaced 0.65 millimeters apart, and the GPU flex on the PS1 is 0.5 millimeters spaced apart.
Oh, wow.
So you just have a higher chance. The flex install is just harder on the PS1.
I see.
But you don't have to. But you don't have to file a port like you do on the DC, and a lot of people hate that.
Oh, okay. Because I remember Firebrand X had a problem with the PS1 Digital at one point,
Mhm.
and he's generally pretty good with stuff. And Dan, you use like a digital. You don't use a digital microscope?
No, I have.
You
an
have that
actual-
huge thing, right? You have that.
Yeah, I actually have a true like optical stereoscopic microscope.
I see.
And Christoph actually has one. I think we almost have the same one. He's got it right behind him in his lab right there.
Don't know.
How far? Oh, okay, I see.
Mm-hmm.
How far back does that go? Like this, I'm just saying, like the room, because it looks like you got like stuff like at every corner. It looks like you guys like that the microscope way back there, and like where it's kind of red. Where it's like kind of like the red light.
No,
No,
like that
that's-
little thing with the light right there.
Yeah.
I think he actually has
okay.
two.
This.
Oh, I see.
It's-
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Christoph, do you hold like another engineering job like outside of doing this? Is it mainly like a hobby still, or is it becoming more and more like your primary?
Yeah, since September, then
Oh,
I think I'm full time.
Congratulations! I mean, that's huge.
Yeah,
That is huge. And I mean, it's
feels good.
yeah. I mean, after like working for, I mean, like several years now, like 3 years, like or it's like almost 3 years since the DC Digital came out at this point, right?
That sounds about right.
Hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
that when we shot the stuff with you for Analog Frontiers, Dan, you had like a beta version of it.
Of DC Digital?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we watched it running on your little monitor, and you had the schematics up on it. I've used that shot of the schematics on your that you've got like you're like sitting in front of this big TV with like the schematic like full screen, and you're looking at it. I've used that a few times.
And even like installing the XStation, that is, you have to like lift pins and everything, right?
Yeah.
Is that-
I do the pin lifting. So a lot of people take the the iron and heat the pin up and pull it.
Mhm.
I just pull the pin.
What with that microscope, you can get right in there, and
Yeah.
helps out a ton. I mean, I even just like doing like minor things without any kind of microscope. I've like the minimal soldering that I've done. I feel like I can't see well enough. I'm like, oh, I should get one of those big magnifying, like those big microscopes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
I'm sure they're super expensive.
They're not. They're actually not too bad. They range from I think like 200 to 600 for some base models. You know, the higher
I get-
models have different, you know, lights and easier movability, but for around 200, 250, you can get the job done.
Mhm.
That's not nearly as bad as I was expecting. I thought like, oh, they'd be like a couple thousand or something like that.
I think there are some that are that price, but you know, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, there was a $1.99 from Swan Soup saying, "Are we ever going to get a PS2 digital?" And yes, but I mean, there's no like projected date for that or anything. Currently, is there?
At this point, no, there's no set date. I mean, we've got how many? I don't know how many hardware revisions we did on that. I would like to somehow make it possible to make both the fat and slim work with the same board,
Oh wow.
but I don't know if that's going to be possible with what's out there.
Which one are you prioritizing right now?
I would say the slim because it supports more models.
Okay.
But what do you guys think should be priority?
Like the 7,000, right? Because the 9,000 is like, isn't it like technically emulation?
So yeah, so it actually wouldn't support the 9000. It's there's so many revisions of that console.
I mean, the 9000 is super different. Like it.
Yeah.
The one thing I do love about the 9000 though is it runs really cool. Like some of the early slims run pretty hot.
I've also heard the 9000 boots games faster.
I don't know.
That because I had some speedrunners say that like you've got to support the 9000 because it's faster on load screens.
Well, you know, the one thing about the 9000, as far as I understand, the PS1 compatibility, even though like I've never actually been able to observe like an obvious difference with it, apparently the PS1 backwards compatibility on the 9000 is like completely software based.
Yes, I think and really I think the best revisions are the 5000 or hold on, I'm pulling up my list here.
Yeah,
There's
there are even different motherboard revisions within a model number.
Yeah, I mean,
Correct, Dan?
There are a lot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna paste something into the chat if it'll let me.
It should. If it doesn't, I can approve it.
Well, looks like it's let's format it here. So I format this, but
There's two euros. I just like on the same subject from Jackdaw saying the fat model has a much larger user base. So
Well, I mean, the fat model, I don't know that much about like what options, if any, there are for like loading games on the Slims from like Flash
You
Media
can do
or
it.
something. Can you?
You can do it via network. This is working pretty good.
Oh,
But the
okay.
USB is too slow. It's only USB
Right.
1.1.
I forgot I even had USB.
yeah, I loading games onto it over the network has just like not worked well for me at all.
No? No?
That's why I have a hard drive. I can use a hard drive, but I just like replaced it with I got like a IDE to SD card adapter. So I just use like a micro SD because it is. I just can't get it to work over my network. While the Xbox, if I needed to copy anything to the internal hard drive over the network, it's just like basically plug it in and I can quickly connect to it with an FTP.
Yeah.
It just like works.
Yeah.
The PS2 is not worked for me.
And that's one of those things where it'd be nice if someone had a better ODE.
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
you know, OPL has there's all those settings, and you can go through all those to try and get a game to work. But, you know, if there was just something more on a hardware level of emulating the CD drive.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would definitely be into it. I mean, a lot of people might not see the need for it, but it would definitely.
I think it'd be pretty popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also $5 from Mark Dell. Thank you. Saying, do you think we'll see a Saturn Digital? It'd be the final major system I can't get perfectly clean HDMI out of. Stay awesome, duders. And it just would be too difficult, essentially, because of the second VDP, right? Is that what it is? Like,
For the Saturn?
yeah. What is the aspect of it that makes it? You can't get like a perfectly like untouched digital signal, like a complete digital signal from anywhere, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, on the VDP1 generates, I think, the background,
Mhm.
and then sends it over via a pixel bus to the VDP2, but then the VDP2 internalizes the RGB signal. So you'd essentially have to, you know, emulate the entire VDP2.
Well, I mean the
Almost kind of like a Genesis and 32X or something like that, maybe.
Yes.
I mean
need
the,
to- yeah.
the analog video is generated like within the VDPs. It's not like an external encoder, right? Or I don't mean external encoder, but I mean like on its own discrete chip.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how common that may or may not be actually in terms of how other consoles might be designed, but VDP tends to be a word that I only really hear related to, you know, Sega stuff. Like I don't
Well,
know.
I think it's just their term for, you know, was it video display processor?
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
Is that just a purely Sega term?
I don't
Probably.
think so.
I don't know.
There's another €2 from Jackdaw saying the fat internal hard drive with free McBoot is the way to go. I mean, I can definitely see that is. I mean, it's popular and common enough, and you can do it without a mod. You just need a memory card.
Yeah.
It's been I guess hacked with this stuff on it, but.
I mean, do you all
Just
know
like-
much
like-
about, you know, I mean, a lot of it would be anecdotal, I'm sure, but like the general, the general like longevity of, or ease of replacing like fat versus slim, lasers? Like, I mean, does it seem like one is more reliable than the other? I mean, I know fats, you know, have traditionally, I think, tended to be worse, but I haven't really heard a lot of people say one way or the other. About
I
slims.
know the 3900X is a tank.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the, not the latest fat. I think the latest fat was like a 5000.
Yeah, I think that's right. I've got a 39 that I was playing on last month, and during the pre-stream, this was for a stream on another site, and I was playing an audio CD in it, and at some point later in the audio CD, it did start to skip. I don't know. I mean, it could have been partly the fault of the disc, I guess, but that was the first time I ever had any kind of issue with that 3900.
There also may be a lot of false claims out there, because I know some mod chips, there was some weird issues with like the Metron unit, that it would essentially burn up the diode in the laser
Huh.
on some mod chips.
Oh wow.
But yeah,
I don't know the technical details about it, but there was something like that.
I forget what model it is, but like my original PS2 that I bought in 2001, think 2001. Yeah, it had to have been 2001. I mean it will not read discs anymore, period. But I've got like 3 slims for whatever dumb reason. So yeah, that I think I've got 2, like, what is it, 7? The very first, is it 7,000?
No, yeah, I think you're right, 7,000.
Yeah, I've got 2 of those, and I've got one 9,000. Like, I know the 9,000 is getting further and further removed from, original hardware, but like, I really do love just like how cool it runs. Like, it feels like a reliable system to me.
I wonder if the 79, because there's a 79,000, and it's a half board design like the 9,000. But it doesn't have the power supply internalized.
Right. I think
because the 9,000 has that.
Well, the 9,000 has the 9,000 is external, right? Or no?
No,
it is internal. Right. The others have the power brick, which is that. I mean, that's the opposite of what I would think, at least. Like, you would think that internal power supply system would be hotter, but they run so cool in comparison.
Well, they probably jumped down some type of production size in the chip, and it probably runs significantly cooler.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know really all the difference in what's going on a technical level, but I've never observed like a gameplay difference between, the 9,000 and the other systems. I mean, it seems like a solid system. I'm not as informed as I could be about the differences, but I kind of like that system. It's not my main one right now, but it's always there for me to fall back on.
Yeah. There's a $5 donation from Container7 saying, any tips on making the fans and fat PS2s quieter?
That's been a big thing in Dreamcast lately, is getting like a Noctua fan. I'd really like to try that sometime.
I mean, outside of getting a new fan, that's probably the only thing I can think of.
Is that anything that, like, I've only really heard of that kind of project in terms of Dreamcast. Is anyone?
It uses a really weird fan.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any mod for it.
Yeah. I think I have a quieter fan in my GameCube.
Oh, the GameCube's never really been a problem for me.
It's definitely a quieter fan. But speaking of GameCube, is there like any upcoming updates for the GC loader?
I imagine write support at some point. Daniel.
That's like the last major thing that's really needed, right?
Yeah. I think when Daniel because he originally started that project and did most of the work, he kind of, there's this mindset, I just wanted to play games. And so he got to play games, and then, it's kind of this, extra feature for write support, which would be handy for Swiss. So.
Yeah. I mean, your little thing that goes in the bottom, like, goes a long way to helping with that. But if you ever want to update Swiss, it's just always kind of obnoxious because you gotta, especially if you have a Game Boy player on there, so you gotta like take that off and get into the bottom. I guess you should just.
You mean to update it, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you just like want to put like a new version of Swiss, oh no, you put the
yeah, you just on the SD card on the GC loader itself.
Right. I don't know why I was thinking that. Maybe I store some other stuff. If there's like other programs on there that
you could put those on the GC loader. Really, you just need that that SD2 SP card,
right?
With just a small micro SD to save settings.
Oh, okay. So that's the main reason that write support is needed, is saving settings. Like,
yes,
like on like a per game basis, essentially.
Yeah. So like if you write a game, you don't, like, if you want all your games to be 480p and you go in and set them to 480p, without that card, it'll just reset back to defaults.
Got it. Got it.
On the next boot up.
Got it. Okay, so that's what you would want to do is just have individual settings for games. Like if you have a game that like works exceptionally well, like being forced to like widescreen or something like that.
Exactly. And you can go in every time and set those settings if you wanted to, and not need that right support. But it's just a major convenience factor.
I see. There was $2 from Jonathan G. Thank you. Saying any challenges developing for the PS1 revisions.
Yeah, the major issue with the 1000 series is you're essentially going to have to cut out one of the ports for the RCA jacks. Just physically can't fit an HDMI connector.
Right.
And plus the flexes are different. But that's kind of the major hurdle with that. The later models don't have digital audio support, so we could do like throw a analog to digital DAC in a later model, but I think you're kind of selling yourself short and should just buy a new PlayStation at that point.
Yeah.
And get digital audio.
I mean, that's what Try was talking about when he first booted it up. He was like, the audio sounds so good.
Yeah.
I mean, is there like a pretty big improvement just like in audio quality, you think, through the PS1Digital? Or is it?
I think a lot of it depends on your chain and how I mean, actually, Christoph used to be an audio engineer, so he probably can talk about this a lot longer than I can.
Yeah, I mean, I just, the last time that I had my PS1 downstairs here, because now I've got all my analog output systems upstairs, and I'm putting only HDMI capable systems downstairs, including modded systems. And last time I didn't have as robust of a audio setup down here. So now I've got like a subwoofer in it, and I've put my better speakers in the front. So it just that definitely could have had something to do with it, but it just really shocked me on like everything is sounding good.
Yeah, I mean, I've not spent as much time with it as I would have liked to at this point. I played a good bit of Brave Fencer Musashi yesterday.
That's a game I'd like to replay.
And it just has a really great soundtrack to it too.
Oh
so.
Yeah.
And my son watched me play that one.
Say, Spyro, you see this wall here?
So going from that to Spider-Man, he was like, "What?"
If only I had a few more gems, I might be able to remember.
How is the audio on the PS5? Heard it's supposed to be pretty.
Oh.
Yeah,
Pretty
so
good.
there's like this.
The sparkling beauty of
There's
those
like
gems
this
seems to have jogged my memory.
3D audio something or other, I guess, that like is kind of focused on getting like people with just headphones or more simple sound setups to get them an experience that's closer to having a full sound system. But I'm not really, I mean, I've got a 5.1 setup here. I'm not really sure if any of the audio features in the PS5 actually give me any benefit. I don't really know. Like, I mean, the sound, seems as good as it has been on my PS4 Pro and my, Xbox systems. So,
Yeah, I heard they were like taking scans of people's ears.
Yeah, like apparently like you can choose like a profile that like matches your ear canal or whatever. Like I don't really understand. Like I'm still unclear if I don't know. I'm just still unclear if it actually benefits you if you're already using a surround setup.
Jonathan G is saying he wants to hear from Christoph about PS1 sound, digital versus analog. Is there any
I guess if you have access to the digital signal, then you take it.
Yeah.
And-
Yes, I would
I mean,
prefer it, and it's so much more convenient than to plug it in via HDMI to your
yeah.
to whatever you have for a speaker system. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
I mean, it's
And those-
audio is always analog in the end, but if you can keep it digital as long
Yeah.
as you can, why not?
yes.
And a lot of people talk about that first revision of the PS1 as having like a really good DAC in it, and the people are seek it out basically to use it as a CD player.
Yes.
That's actually, I don't want to say that's a myth, but the 5000 series has the same DAC as the 1000 series.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, just the 1000 series has the RCA jacks.
Right.
So you can get that directly into just go directly to your stereo.
Yeah, it's easier just to get the output on it.
You know, something that I've kind of
I'm gonna run to the back.
wondered for a while that I don't know if like that many people would actually use a feature like this, but I would love to be able to take like some form of CD rip to like play on like an ODE on, you know, PlayStation or really any other system, because, you know, I kind of like using like the audio playback features on game systems. You know, my PS3 is still like my main music player. It's really stupid, but like it's got like really good visualizers, so they're really good to use for like pre-stream backgrounds and stuff like that. And
The PS3 did those super audio CDs too, which is
oh, I forgot
super
about
rare.
What even are those? I don't even know much about them. I forgot that was even a term. I think there was like my old Sony AV receiver had a super audio CD button on it, but I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, it's a audio format Sony invented, which basically is a 1-bit format, like the Delta Sigma converters. Yeah, but it never was used really,
Yeah, I mean,
except some rare SACDs.
it's like it's like they added Ethernet to the HDMI specification, but like I don't think anything uses it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, the format wars. Everybody came out with everything, trying to make something work,
Yeah.
seeing what would stick.
But that is something I would love to see in an ODE someday, is just like some sort of music playback feature. Like, I feel like that would definitely be useful to me. I don't know if anyone else cares, but I think that would be especially if someone could like add like a cool visualizer to their interface. Like, I don't know. I think that'd be fun.
I think it's possible with the XStation. Can just queue an image of an audio CD and then use it in games which support loading sound from audio
Oh
CD.
yeah, I get.
Yeah, I think-
You could just say like multi-disc and like just say this
Yes.
other one's disc 2.
Yeah, and then you change to the next
That's an
one.
interesting idea. Like, yeah, I should try see if you could do that with like VibRibbon or something like that.
Yes, I guess this is working on the XStation.
Ah, yeah. I never thought of that. That would be actually a really fun thing to try. I don't know what format the CD would have to be ripped in. Would it just be like, would it be an ISO or something?
I think it has to be a raw, full 2353 byte. I don't know. the exact-
I'd have to look into it. I'm definitely not.
Yeah.
I'm not an audio guy at all. I have like zero sense so far of like the progression in this game. Like I just like keep going places and I keep like going into new places, but there's no like, I mean, you know, when you're streaming and playing a game, like it's always a lot harder to like actually like absorb what is going on in the game. But like I just have like no concept of if I'm like doing what I should be doing or not. Like the structure of the first I played the first game like I don't know, like 2 or 3 years ago. And I really liked it, and the structure of it was a lot more clear to me. Like, you know, you kind of just had like multiple like hub areas and then little levels within them. It kind of just seems like I'm not even like I've lost track in this game. Like, am I in a hub world or am I in a level? Like, it just kind of seems like everything is just all interconnected and blending together. But you know, I don't know why exactly, but you know, you've got like the PS4 remakes, or really they're on all systems of the Spyro trilogy and the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, and there's like a lot of series where, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just play the remake version. But for some reason, like all these PlayStation 1 games, I'm just like, I just want to play the PlayStation version, even though like I don't like, you know, I've not played these. I didn't play these games, you know, when I was younger, so I don't have nostalgia for this specific version. But I don't know. I just, yeah, you know, something I think there is to be said for, you know, playing the original version of a game versus a remake. You know, sometimes when some of the design is a little simpler or more primitive, I think when you are playing it on the hardware that it was made for, it kind of puts the whole game into context, and you can appreciate something that's a little simpler, more so when you're playing it on a simpler system.
Must be tougher than you look to get here. All the same,
There
you
was
won't be able to
a
get past the metal shocks up ahead.
$2
I
Australian
suppose I could let
dollars
you
from
borrow my
Michael
supplement
Vaughn
of
Williams
those
from a
Oh.
while
steel
earlier.
balls.
Thank you. Saying, ever looked into the emulation in the Yakuza games? And I have not. I have many of the Yakuza games, but I have not played them. I mean, I've only seen, I guess, what would be comparable in the Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, I've played Yakuza Zero,
right?
and I have Kiwami 1. But that's all I've done. I gotta say though, like I think the new one looks super fun. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the RPG battle system and stuff like that. That resonates with me more, I think, than the brawler combat in the games that are out now. Like it looks really goofy. I think it looks pretty good. So I'm definitely considering getting that maybe sooner than later. It looks fun.
There's also $3 from Bagga Schmidt saying,
Okay.
"I just now joining. So sorry if this has been addressed. Is the PS1 Digital coming to earlier models? I just put my XStation into my 1000 and didn't realize how bad the OSSC handles these switching resolutions. Kind of unplayable on some games. I mean, do you think that you would ever port it to other, like, work it out to put in other versions?"
It's one of those things that we might, if we've got nothing else to do.
Which is
But
like very unlikely at this
But
point.
it's a low priority at this point.
Some kind of jumping off that. I mean, if it's a low priority, you had talked recently about how, you know, you open source the DC Digital, and you're not planning on doing that for the time being, correct?
Yes, correct.
Because a lot of people kind of took the DC Digital and they didn't make. Is it the reason they didn't like make very good versions of it, or how did it?
Well, I mean,
Probably
partly
because of bit funks.
well, it's more just you know, we're before the Dreamcast was kind of a hobby and it was kind of spending our time here and there.
Right.
And then now that we're spending all this time on it, and you know, it's becoming more than a hobby to some extent.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we don't want to necessarily release the PlayStation and then someone else comes and makes a ton, and then you know, we're trying to, you know, Christoph quit his job to kind of work on this full time because he wants to and likes it, but you know, we can't work on the street as well, so
Yeah.
Totally agree. I totally agree.
and we still believe in definitely open source software, and if there's ever a time to where we're, you know, if we just, you know, wipe our hands and say we're walking away, we would release, you know, all the stuff for that.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, especially with you know, you don't have another product, you know, that you know, you have to have a sense of where your income is going to be coming from, like from other products and stuff. And it's like, well, if one thing is kind of dried up, then, you know, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that that's a good way to do it. I mean, when you made the DC Digital, you were certainly not expecting to be in the position you are now.
Yeah, like I remember when we first talked, we had these, well, if even if, you know, a couple hundred units sell, that would be amazing, you know, and 2 years later it's still selling. So
Yeah.
For a system that was like a like famous, like, I mean, I wouldn't say failure, but you know, a system that had a short retail life.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
the passion that people have for the Dreamcast is unrivaled, pretty much. So
I mean, based on how many you've sold, I mean, it has, like, the other versions of it even, like, impacted your sales that much, you think? I think that most people, if they're going to get it, they probably order it from you.
I would say so. The BitFunks versions are a little bit subpar. I don't know why they even do that. Some of the stuff on there. I mean, their savings isn't that significant to where it's even worth it, in my mind. But you know,
And
Don't-
BitFunks, like, are they like formerly Kaiko? Is that who they were before?
I
or no?
think.
Oh, really?
Well, no,
Yeah.
BitFunks is the Chinese. I think the person who's having them produced, and then Kaiko is just getting all the stuff from BitFunks and reselling it in the UK to make it seem more legitimate.
I see. Okay.
Is Kaiko still the name they're using?
Yes, in the
I've kind
UK.
of been, you know, out of the loop on that, I guess, recently.
Yeah, because if you go to BitFunks' AliExpress page, they sell exactly the same stuff Kaiko sells.
Okay. So they're also like they're selling like the, I guess
The retro tink stuff. Yeah. The
what do they call it? Like the retro scalar 2X or something like that. Like, not to make it too obvious. But I don't have they. I wonder if they have even done anything that's like on similar, like on equal grounding as the RetroTink 2X Pro. I mean, I don't think that they have.
I think Mike put some stuff in there to make that more difficult to
Yeah.
you know, just straight up copy it.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's important to support the original creators.
yeah.
For sure, and you always get the better product.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, you know, with a lot of these open source products, I think people still are interested in supporting the original creator when they can, because you're getting the best product, and you are, you know, or at least like a version that was made up to the standards and specifications that it was intended to be. And you know, yeah, you support the original creator. So I mean, that's always.
And a lot of times, you know, you do an open source project to get more people, more creators coming in doing more features. I mean, that's essentially Christoph created some of the FPGA firmware, and then I created the hardware. So
Right.
it kind of was a, you know, if he wouldn't have open sourced it, I never would have found it and never would have made it.
Yep.
So it kind of was a, but you know, since him and I have worked on, and I don't think anybody else has contributed
Hi, Spyro.
to
Is it
the
just
source
that
at
you're
all.
here? If you
Yeah.
could help
So
shepherd
at
those
some
things
point, you
such
kind of
as
have an
the
argument.
safety,
Why do
I'll
you
be
even
mighty
open source it if
grateful.
no one's gonna, if people are just gonna kind of take it and run in a way?
At this point, is there even anything you want to still add to the DC Digital, or would you pretty much call it finished at this point?
I mean, if we were to do it over again, we would have it have the PS1 hardware,
Hmm.
have the SD RAM and the clock gen, and I'd probably do a flex cable for the controller connections, just to make the install a little easier.
Oh, okay. But I mean, but even still as it is, I mean, is there any future firmwares like even planned? Or, like, what is the roadmap like for it at this point?
I
Right.
think there's nothing open on our roadmap, but it happens from time to time that somebody requests a new feature, and then I look into it, and if it's doable in a reasonable time frame,
Right.
then I'll do it. I'll add it.
Yeah, like the very thin scan lines you just added in
Mhm.
recently to
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I saw.
right,
I
yeah.
saw. You know the. I guess that would be for like 480p because I saw that in the menu. Here, let me bring it up here. In the menu, let's see, scan line. Yeah, you've got. If I turn them on, I mean, you aren't going to be able to tell on the stream, but like if you say very thin, like if we pretended this was a 480p game. Then that would look like looking at a high-end VGA monitor, basically.
Yeah.
What's the thick? What's the use case for the thick one?
Yeah.
I guess I just edited it.
Well, you know, I mean,
when playing around
That's
with
like-
it, and then it's just
you invented
show
what would it be 170p resolution is what that would be. Well, you know, but
That's
I
for
could
people that want to show PS1 games in a movie.
that's
like,
exactly what I was thinking of because like you know whenever you have like movies or in like on Netflix like some like the game documentaries that are on like streaming services and stuff like the scan lines aren't really behaving like real scan lines but like to its credit though like it does make it more visible. Like if I'm sitting back here and I just have it on the regular scan lines, like unless I like really raise the intensity, there. I guess if you real like yeah, I want to see those scan lines, there you go.
That's a good way to do it.
But yeah, it would
Yeah.
like it would actually be interesting for like maybe like if you wanted to, even though they wouldn't necessarily be where they would really be on a CRT, like if you wanted to just in a movie or a video or something kind of have something that was like shorthand for old video content. Here are these visible scan lines, that could get the job done.
General Osimo is saying, can alternating scan lines be added to the PS1 Digital like on the GC Video and OSSC? Like, is that...
yes, I guess something. Yes, I thought about that before.
What would be the use
and
for that? I mean,
Well, I guess to
not sure
make
exactly.
it more CRT like, I guess.
Mm.
I've never really used that feature on the OSSC or anything else that has that. I guess the GC Video. That's probably where I tried it. I can't remember where I tried it. I never used it for an extended period of time. It didn't, to me, it did not look as good as just regular Bob deinterlacing, but I guess I could see the appeal to it. I'm sure some people like that.
There was a super chat that I missed earlier. Sorry about that. From Jonathan G. Saying, would it be possible to read and play back programmed audio sequences and sound fonts straight from a PS1 disc, similar to the VGM Trans and Fubar 2000? So I'm assuming maybe something like an NSF player, but what are they called, like PSF on the PlayStation?
Oh,
But that seems like something that would be more of like that'd be more in the realm of the XStation. I feel like.
yeah. I don't. There is a. I'm not familiar with PSF, but like there's a term for the type of sound that is used in most PS1 games when it's not streaming, I think, and I'm drawing a blank on what.
Is it called the SPU tunes? Looks like Electron Ash knows something about it in the chat.
SPU tunes. I don't know. I just know that if you go to Zophire's domain, all the PlayStation stuff is like PSF that you can download, which would make sense, like PlayStation sound format or something like that. But I haven't been able to find like any really good plugins. I mean, I used to have a plugin for Winamp that I could listen to them using, which is still around. I mean, it went away for a while, but it came back a couple of years back.
Oh, is it still like
Winamp.
updated?
Yeah.
Winamp.
Yeah, Winamp. It was. They stopped making it for. Or
Do
stopped
they
working.
still have that intro?
It really whips Llama's ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Blarg
Wow.
knows about it. Yeah, I didn't even realize that it came back. It stopped being updated and then it came back. Okay, so Jonathan G is saying is right, and from a PSF you can extract the .seq data to MIDI and also extract the sound font or sound front samples to WAV. Let's see, Vanessa Era still uses Winamp. I when I installed it, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm on a higher resolution screen. It's like this big.
It was already pretty small.
Yeah. The old days of Winamp, going through college and
Yeah, that was
That was the Napster days, the good
Mhm.
days.
yeah.
Yeah.
that was
was
definitely
out
my
for
main
it.
music player.
I remember it was that, and then like I didn't really use Napster or any of those
Wasn't there
LimeWire
wasn't
or
there
anything like that.
wasn't there another one?
Huzzah. That's it.
Well, there was
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
that sounds familiar.
LimeWire.
Yeah, LimeWire is the one that was kind of like was popular in my college, but I was more about like finding stuff and then like downloading it via FTP.
Yeah. Like the good old the old BBS systems, the news groups and stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, like I remember using Bulletproof FTP. I don't know if that's still around. It'd be funny if Bulletproof FTP is still around. But yeah, I mean that's how I got. Like,
If you couldn't resume a file, that was a big deal. You know, on your 56K modem, and if you cut out,
Yeah.
you know, halfway through a 3 meg download.
Like I remember like getting into MP3 before they were like a big thing, and I remember uploading an MP3 that I made to like AOL, like to like one of the like the game groups, and I had to record it directly from my system, and it was the Storm Owl stage from Mega Man X4. That was the first MP3 I ever made, and I uploaded it. And it's funny because years later, I downloaded it, and it was the same version that I made. I downloaded it from someplace else. Of course, now that would not be the case. But it was just funny that it would. That even though I didn't have it myself anymore, I was able to find it.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and making CDRs. I remember like burning a CD would take like, I guess with my Memorex 2X CD recorder, it would take an hour to burn a CD. Do you guys
So
remember
the-
what the first CD you ever burned, the first music CD you ever burned was?
I have no
Oh.
idea what the first one was. I do remember though, like CDs costing, you know, a few bucks per one.
Yeah.
Wasn't like
Yep.
how they are now for like a penny.
I got my CDRs from Sam's Club, where you could buy like a stack, and they would all come with CD cases. So I would you'd buy a stack of 10 and it was like $20 for 10.
I don't remember what the first one I burned myself, but I believe the first one that like a friend ever like did for me, like, it was always like, like, oh, like I know someone who has a CD burner, right? And oh, now I finally understand what the heck that even is.
That looks like
But-
Lord of the Rings.
I've run into those in levels, and like I obviously was not paying attention to something at some point, and now I know that I can use that to power up the flame temporarily.
I might have my first music CD that I ever bought.
I've got it
held
too.
on to it.
I've got it was the Star Fox 64 soundtrack. Like a friend had the actual disc, and like someone he knew like burned a copy, and he like I think it's like it's Koji Kondo and someone else, like it's Hajime Wakai or something like that, and it says on the just like printed out label that he made in like Word or whatever. It says Koji Konodo or something like that. Like
The first music CD that I ever burned was Sarah McLachlan's "Fumbling Towards Ecstasy." somehow
It's
that's
incredible
like,
that you can remember that.
I think I might still have it though. I should go look to see if I still have it, because I'm pretty sure that I may have thrown away. I threw a bunch of like my CDRs away.
I'm curious to know
I
if it
think-
still works.
Let me go see if I have it still.
I have a lot of CDRs and CD-ROMs from the time, and they all work.
oh,
Did
Yeah.
I used to think that, like, CDs are, you burn a CD and it's like basically a permanent record. But like, I mean, my understanding is like the different dyes or whatever that are used in certain media is more reliable than others. I mean, I've never run across one that didn't work anymore, but
Yeah, even in the 90s, I remember there were a lot of discussions how durable the CDs actually are, and they tried to simulate it in like climate chambers. They tried to simulate the aging
yeah.
and made assumptions how long they will last.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, that Artemio was talking about that in, some of the stuff we put in Analog Frontiers Part 2. Artificial aging, sure, but you can't advance time. You don't.
yeah,
You have no way of knowing. You can make guesses, but you have no
Yes.
way of knowing how long it will last. And luckily, it seems like things have generally lasted quite long so far.
I think they also made a new CD. Well, I don't know how old this is, but like an archival CD. And
Oh.
I'm trying to think how long those are supposed to last.
I mean, I believe Blu-rays are supposed to last a super long time, aren't they? And I mean, I don't know if this applies to all Blu-ray discs, but like I know like Wii U and Xbox One discs kind of have a. I mean, I don't think Wii U is Blu-ray, but
Apparently, they're called Millennium Discs, M Disc.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay. But yeah, Wii U and Xbox One games kind of have a different feel to them compared to like PS3 or PS4. They have like these really curved feeling edges. Like they really feel smooth. And I was talking to one of the guys at one of my local game stores a while back. And he said like one day they just took like some like Wii U game no one cared about and just like tried to scratch it up and they could not do it. Like, you know, it seems like newer discs are less, at least a bit less susceptible to scratches as well.
But have you ever burned a Blu-ray disc?
Yeah, I have actually. But I'm not really sure about like how they differ in terms of like longevity or anything. But I have like once or twice, like when we were making some Blu-rays for some stuff that we were selling.
Okay.
I did. Yeah, it's not something that I've done very many times, but
Yeah, it's because it's very funny. It appeared at the end of the life cycle of disc-based media, I guess.
yeah. But I mean,
Blu-ray.
what's crazy is like, you know, Blu-rays. I mean, we've got like, you know, UHD Blu-rays now that you know
Yeah.
hold so much more, and it's so weird to think. You know, I was talking to a friend about this a while back. And like before the word, like he could just tell what I was ramping up to say before the words even left my mouth. He's like, no, don't say it. I'm not ready for it. I said, did you know that Blu-rays have been around for longer than DVDs were when Blu-rays released? And like, as soon as I was saying it, he's like, I know what you're going to say, and I don't want to hear it. But I mean, it is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, I think DVDs came out in like 97, I want to say. And Blu-rays came out in 2006.
That's when I got my DVD player.
Blu-rays came out in 2000. So it was only 10, or it was less than just under a decade. Like, it's crazy.
They're still producing DVDs though, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I wonder what kind of market it is, but I mean, they do, yeah.
I seriously got into like buying DVDs really early. Like I got mine, you know, my first year of college, so that would have been like 97.
Wow.
There was only like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
my
I'm not
first,
joking.
there was not a lot of good stuff. It was my
Best
first
pa-
my first my first DVD was Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember going to Best Buy because I think we had one in late '97, and it was just all action movies.
Yeah,
Seemed like.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it was like, and you could sign up for a thing where you got a bunch of movies for free, kind of like Columbia House. You guys ever do Columbia House?
I was too young to. My mom wouldn't give me a credit card for that or a check. She knew that it was a scam.
Yeah, I feel like there's people a certain age where like doing stuff like getting, you know, your 10 CDs for a penny from Columbia House is like a mistake that everybody made.
Oh, I mean, I wanted it. I saw those ads. I was like, oh my god, why would I not want that?
Yeah. And it's like, what they don't tell you is that, you know, we're gonna charge you double for everything else, like all the CDs that you have.
We're just gonna
you have
randomly send you junk that you don't want and then charge you for it.
Yep. But I remember getting, you know, you could send in the UPC for your Blu-ray player, and you could get a bunch of Warner Brothers movies for free. And the one that I feel like everybody had was U.S. Marshals. You know, the kind of quasi sequel to the Fugitive.
Great. I'll take you to a new portal.
But I don't have any of those anymore. Although I did hold on to my Starship Troopers DVD because it's the first one I ever bought, and it had the full screen version on one side and
The widescreen on the back.
Yep.
Yep.
And there's, you know, some of them where you had to flip the disc to watch the other half of the movie early on.
Yeah,
They
until they
do.
came out with dual layer.
Yeah.
Wait, DVDs?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really? Wow. I don't think.
They went out to, you know, like 8
They used to
gigs
call
or
'em
9 gigs.
They called them flippers.
Yeah,
Because,
you know,
mean, that's
I don't know
kind of a leftover
when.
thing from Laserdisc.
I don't know when it was that I learned about DVDs, honestly, but I'm sure it was after. I'm sure it was later than '97. You know, I never saw like a DVD movie in action until the PS2 was out, and a friend rented Jackie Chan's Legend of Drunken Master, and like I just remember being so blown away by the fact that you could press the start button on the PlayStation controller, and I was always used to when you hit pause on a VHS tape and it's all jittery, but this was just like rock solid picture, and I'll never forget that. And something that's really interesting is nowadays we've gotten really used to watching Blu-rays on or watching if we do watch DVDs again, usually it's it's on a flat screen TV and you see all the MPEG artifacts and stuff. But then if you actually go and look at one on a CRT, even a high-end CRT like a PVM, like they just mask those MPEG artifacts so perfectly, and it brings me back to that just pure amazement I had at how clean the image was when I first saw a DVD, because they really are like
you could step through it without any kind of issue. You could just...
Yeah, I mean they are as good as they need to be for a 15 kilohertz CRT. They do not need to be any better for that viewing environment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're perfect for it.
Well, I mean, the DVD is only 480i anyway.
Yeah, that's something I didn't know that. Now, I mean, even Blu-ray is like a more limited format than you think, because it blew my mind. You can't even do 1080p 30 on a Blu-ray. Like, it's crazy. And that's made making Blu-rays, kind of challenging for some of our content, the not that we've done very many yet, but it does create some complications.
Yeah, you always have to make 1080i versions.
Yeah.
Of it. Luckily 1080i looks really good.
Yeah, it usually deinterlaces well, in a player, but when you are doing video game content, certain clips, when you look at, that was one, you were asking if I ever burned a Blu-ray. That was one of the reasons that I did it, is because when Coury was making a Blu-ray of one of our stuff, like we wanted to watch it and make sure that everything looked fine on when it was 1080i. And there were in certain cases, like a few shots, I think shots that had like scan lines on, like, if you were playing a game that had scan lines turned on, it looked bad.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that pause you were talking about, I think I remember reading that something that made Laserdiscs really popular was that movie Basic Instinct, where she uncrossed her legs and people were buying that because they could pause it right on that scene.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that's a significant step up from scrambled cable.
Yeah.
Or scrambled premium channels.
I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I mean, remember reading that, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I've never seen that movie. I mean, it was
I've never seen it.
I've not seen it, and I remember like it was such a big deal at the time, and then did Paul Verhoeven did he do Showgirls then, like after that?
Probably. And see, us Americans aren't used to that stuff. I'm sure Christoph's like, "What are you guys talking about? We were doing that. That's nothing." I mean.
Okay, yeah. So he did do Showgirls like right after that. I remember that because that was like, oh my god.
That was Saved by the Bell. What was her name?
Yeah, I don't remember what her name was, but the girl with the curly hair. Saved by the Bell.
Spano.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, I wasn't like an avid viewer of Saved by the Bell, but I remember it was like, I remember a friend of mine in high school like was able to like rent that movie, and like for some reason we had like a snow day or something, and he like invited all of his friends over to watch it, and like we were like interested for like 15 minutes. That's all there is to the story before we like did something else.
I've always been fascinated by Laserdisc. My neighbor had one, and we actually watched Showgirls over there when we were probably too young to watch it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, yeah.
but yeah,
for
when you
sure.
flip the disc, it's so impressive. You know.
Oh, like on a laser disc?
Yeah, you got to take it over and flip it because it's because each ring around the laser disc is one frame, or I think it's 2 frames. I think maybe.
Oh,
think.
really?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
it's actually an analog data stream on the disc.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But I didn't realize that that's how it works out. Is like one time around is
Yeah,
like
so the
one
disc
frame.
spins at that right exact speed.
Interesting. Like, see, I did not realize that that's the way it works. So like if it's flipping, that's like the actual laser flips, right? It just
No,
like,
on my neighbor's player, it ejected the disc out. You had to go
Right.
physically flip it.
I remember when DVD came out, when we were watching laser discs in my a film class when I was in college, my first year of college, like when DVD came out. I don't remember. I remember he had a player that automatically flipped, but I assume that's just like the laser going to the other side.
Yeah, probably.
Because I mean, it'd have to be so tall for like.
Be that Pioneer Laser Active one. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty tall.
But still, it just like that I had to think about that. Like, oh, is that what it does?
I wouldn't be surprised they had 2 lasers in them.
Yes, I guess.
Yeah, that would make sense.
There was a $2 donation from John Perry G. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe he means something else. He's like, what's Christoph twisted up over? I don't really know what he's trying to say. That's what he says. I mean, it's maybe you can elaborate. Thank you. I just think he was probably tuned out when we were talking about Basic Instinct. Freeze-framing
Yeah, and
Freeze-framing.
Laserdisc.
and laser discs.
They weren't a thing here in Germany. I've never seen a Laserdisc since the early 2000s, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and especially now, there's not a huge reason to have them. I think the most exciting thing about them is that they come in these like these gorgeous artwork. They're like records, so they have like
Yeah.
big like inserts and everything.
Well, I mean, one thing
Yeah.
that's so interesting about them is they were really big in Asia, or I mean, I think bigger in Asia. That and like VCDs, I guess, were bigger than here. But like they have like all of these like a big thing is like all of these like I forget what the term for it is, but they've got the like gameplay of like people playing like really good at like an arcade game or whatever, and it's like on Laserdisc and VCD. I think it's interesting.
So there's another $2 donation from John Perry G saying, "What's Christoph twisting up over there?" I think he's asking if you're rolling your own cigarettes or.
Okay, yes, it's just a normal cigarette.
I don't remember what I saw recently. Occasionally, I'll have these
If you press and hold the square button,
have these smoking cigarette dreams that I've not had in a long time. But I mean, I smoked for a while, and I've been quit smoking for like 12 years now. But it's sometimes it'll eventually or just like pop back into my head. Or I don't remember what I watched. I watched some movie where there was smoking a cigarette just like looks so good. But speaking of movies, I watched this documentary I've been dying to see last night. I don't know if you guys are familiar about this. There's a place in New Jersey called Action Park. It's like a theme park, and the whole thing basically is that there is like basically no rules at this place, and he had all these rides where people got hurt on them constantly.
Wow.
And the guy who like ran it basically didn't care. And this place was open for like 10 years. And if anybody like tried to sue him, he would basically never settle. So you'd like, even if you won, you wouldn't make any money because you'd have to spend so much on it. But the documentary is called Class Action Park. I've been wanting to see it for a while, and it's well worth checking out.
Yeah, I've seen a snippet of it, of the trailer, and I think there's like a loop water slide.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The way to describe it. So you go down this hill, and it's like a loop. So basically, you go down, and the people are talking about it. It's like you're just like there's no light coming in from the other side because of the loop. So you're just like going into the darkness. And they're explaining about how they do all these tests at first, because sometimes people would go around and they were coming out on the bottom and their faces were all like gashed up and bloody.
Oh, geez.
And it's because they had to put padding in the top of it because people were going up and like hitting it and like falling down, like where the actual loop is, and like, or like hitting the top of it. And they talk about like how the first few tests that they did, they were finding like teeth embedded in to where people's face hit it.
Oh my gosh.
And it's pretty insane. I mean, the loop, there's the loop, but there's like a lot of other ones. Like there's this one thing where it's like this, it's basically like a bobsled track, but you're like on these little like roller things, and you're like sitting on them, and it's like there's like basically no sides to it. So if you fly off it, you go like flying. And they talk about how like people would just like get torn up from flying off it, just like take off like all of their skin, like where they'd like slide along it. And I mean, even to the point where he wanted to, like he to insure this place, to like insure it so that like if anything happens to anybody, he like started his own like fake insurance company to insure it.
That actually doesn't sound like good insurance.
No. But it is well worth checking out if you can.
Is that that's HBO, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on HBO Max. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, I gotta say. And it's just messed up, and like some of the people they interview are just hilarious. Like just the way that they explain it. There's one guy, because apparently like there's like this like a wave pool, and the way that it was set up, and it would just like would pull people under, and like somebody drown in the wave pool, and the guy, like, then a couple weeks later, somebody else drowned. He's like, nobody should ever be the second person to drown in a wave pool. Like, close the wave pool after the first person drowns in there. But the documentary is called Class Action Park. But it's like it's in New Jersey. I mean, it was, but then it's, it was open from like 1981 to 1993 or something like that.
If you didn't get hurt there, it was probably a blast.
96. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's funny because the guy is talking about it. He's like, when you think about people who grew up in that time and they would go to places like that, he's like I'm not kidding you. Like we would try to die for fun. Like that's what we're trying to do by going to a place like this. We are trying to die for fun.
Yeah.
But it's worth checking out. Yeah, the Ed the Nerd is saying I found a photo of the loop, and it's. I mean, apparently, like they just had had alcohol and everything. Like they just didn't care.
That explains a lot. Then if there was alcohol involved, and young kids, college people. I mean, I would go down that loop if you gave me a couple drinks.
But there's like two sides. There's like the water park, and then there was like the the motor, like the go-kart part. And I guess the go-kart track was like right near the where you could buy drinks. So people would go all the time, would just like go and drink and then go on the go-karts. And apparently they had removed all of the the stuff that keeps the go-karts from going a certain speed. So like apparently the go-karts could go like up to 60 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
So I mean it's pretty crazy. It's kind of unbelievable that they got away with it for as long as they did. Yeah, that's it. Like the governor, that's what it's called. That keeps it from going a certain speed. But yeah, there's it's worth checking out.
Well done, Spyro.
And it's kind of unbelievable that it's real.
Okay, Spyro, jump through that hole in the
So Mark,
Yeah.
how far are? I've never played Spyro 2. Are you like a tenth of the way done? Half of the way
I have
done?
no clue. Like it sounds like I just got like it sounds like I just like kind of reached some sort of critical turning point, or looks like maybe I'm going into a boss fight. I don't know. Like the structure of this game seems like almost like just some kind of like bizarre dream. Like it just feels like you're just like constantly like going through like all these places, but like it's the structure of this world is very unclear to me compared to most games where it's like kind of like, oh, okay, here's the hub area, or here's how I go through this area. It just seems like things are all connecting in very strange ways that aren't making any sense to me. After the stream, I'll have to look up like a walkthrough for the game just to like get a sense of like where am I in this. It's a little confusing compared to the first game, I think. So far I like the first one a lot more, but this one seems pleasant enough.
Christoph, what time is it there at this point?
Almost 5.
I was gonna say, is that the sun? Like I'm slowly seeing, like, is there sunlight coming through that back window,
Oh,
or is that just the way it?
not yet.
How long were you sleeping before the stream? You said you were sleeping a bit.
Just an hour.
Ugh.
What? Oh, jeez.
Well, hopefully, you're gonna find it pretty easy to get back on schedule. After this.
No problem.
Yeah. Are you used to pulling all-nighters? You ever get like so into working on something you just don't go to bed?
Why didn't you chase it?
Yes, a lot of times. And it doesn't make it easier if you work with someone in the US.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're just kind of like, well, I can stay up a little later. I'm sure that's how it goes. I mean, I remember, like, it was 10 years ago. Me and a bunch of friends were playing an online game, and we were like trying so hard to finish the game on this one particular night, because we had this friend in France who was he was like going on vacation for like a month, and we're like, oh well, we don't want to wait a month before we finish this. Like, we gotta finish it tonight. And like, it ended up taking so much longer than we thought it would, and Like, I just remember, like, at some point we just, like, heard his alarm clock go off. And it was like, you know, it was like 1 a.m. or something here.
I remember just growing up, if I was like up all night for whatever reason, I was always terrified of like when my mom would wake up, and it's strangely, if I feel the same way about my wife. Like if I was like up late, I would be like terrified that she'd come down here and be like, "What are you still doing up?"
I never did anything like that when I was a kid, like stayed up all night or nothing. I think I like sleeping too much.
I mean, it doesn't happen to me very often. I mean, not if I was like going to somebody's house for a sleepover or something like that when I was younger, then like we'd always stay up like most of the night.
Yeah.
Mainly because like I never really liked doing that kind of stuff. I could never sleep at anybody else's house.
Oh yeah, I did sleepovers quite a lot when I was, you know, a kid and a teenager. The only problem was eventually we did have to go to sleep because, you know, as you know, my voice is quite loud, so my friend's dad would always like come downstairs and be like,
Shut up.
Yeah, you get to a certain age, sleepovers just aren't a thing anymore.
No. Nope. I mean, I would, for the longest time, I just hated, like, I could never sleep anywhere that wasn't, like, my own house.
See, like, for me, sometimes, like if I'm away from home, like, sometimes that actually, like, helps a little bit.
Yeah. See, now I have no problem sleeping anywhere. It's just funny.
I mean, I can be pretty particular about having to have all the stars aligned just right for me to fall asleep.
Yeah, Castlemania Ryan is in the chat saying, "Glad you're here, Christoph. Appreciate all that you and Dan do." Also, Hung Lei is saying, "Thank you, Christoph and Dan, for all your great products." That's right. You guys have, I mean, very big couple of years. Like I said earlier, it's like definitely the stuff that you guys are doing, I find to be like the most exciting things going on these days.
Yeah, there's yeah.
More where that it came from.
I mean, I'm sure you've got like thoughts in your head for like things that you know, maybe we could try that someday that you're not telling us yet.
I'm sure there's plenty of stuff. They probably have 10 years of stuff mapped out at this point.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we start stuff and then switch gears and, you know, but.
And it's good. I mean, it's good to find a business partner like that, you know, where you are constantly coming up with new things, and it's just like, just happens very naturally, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's $2 from Blake Romo saying, asking, so have you guys played Spyro Reignited on the Switch? I haven't played any of them.
No, I haven't played any version. Like I was saying earlier, like, you know, even though like I did not play Spyro or Crash, you know, a long time ago as a kid or anything, like so I don't have nostalgia for these PlayStation 1 versions. Like I still just, I feel much more compelled for whatever reason to play through these games on PS1. I should play Crash 3 sometime because I keep hearing nothing but good things about Crash 4, but I'd like to play Crash 3 first. Man, I am having a tough time with this fight.
Otaku JHP is saying looking forward to the Xbox Digital. So I mean, do you feel like that might be your next one to fully release? I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's the next one that's kind of in the mix at the moment. So yeah.
I mean, to get that one installed, I probably will put a SSD in the system I'm going to put it in. Because now they're cheap enough now that you don't need anything more than 1 terabyte anyways to basically have everything.
Yeah, that's decent. However, the Xbox does have a lot of good games, and a lot of the versions are really good on the Xbox.
Oh yeah.
Even some of the ports. I mean,
yeah, I mean, do you think that is going to be more complicated than anything? Like, I mean, the fact that it can do 720p and
no, I think it should actually be a little bit easier because it's a lot more standard.
Yeah.
Versus non-standard stuff, or not non-standard, but you kind of know what I mean.
Right.
But I mean, I know it does. I mean, is there games on the Xbox that did 1080i? Because I mean, I always feel like PS2 did 1080i, but you don't only see 1080 or 720p on.
I think there's like 6 or 10 games that are 1080i.
Okay. So.
Similar to the PS2. I think the PS2 only has like 2.
Okay.
But I know the PS2 games are not rendered. They're rendered internally like 860p or something.
It's not that
and then
high.
they're upscaled.
Is there any way like for a digital mod to circumvent that, to like actually like give you a more truer representation of the original render resolution, or is that not really something you can get access to?
It should be possible, I guess, to downscale it and remove the
because like I
guess you'd
know
figure out-
like I don't think the American version does this, but the Japanese version of Valkyrie Profile 2 I think has a 1080i mode. I think it's accessible in the American version, maybe if you enter a code or something, I forget. But like I know, like if you look at that, it's like that doesn't look like 1080i. Like it is outputting 1080i, but it doesn't. It's definitely a lower resolution.
I mean, at that point, I would say it would probably be better to use the 720p and scale it up versus
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, doesn't I've not played that much of the Xbox version of Soul Calibur 2, but if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the 720p mode in that, like, I think it's still 4:3, but I'm not sure if it's like outputting like if it's 1280 by 720 that's outputting. I mean, you would think, but I don't actually know. Like I should try that again sometime. Because I don't know if there like really is any like such thing as like any standardized like 720p that's also like natively 4:3 output.
There probably is. I mean, that whole generation was kind of like new tech was happening so fast. I feel like the PS2 just advertised 1080 and put, they just did the 2 games just to advertise 1080 output, even though it didn't even really do it.
So yeah, I got to a good stopping point in Spyro, it seems. So yeah, I guess that'll about wrap it up. We've been trying to end our streams more like targeting 11 o'clock, allow ourselves till 11:30 if it's just if we just can't help ourselves. But considering Christoph is what was it, 6 hours ahead of us?
Yes, 6 hours.
Yeah, I think we will be kind and go ahead and wrap this up. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I mean, I know everyone definitely enjoyed hearing from you all, and you know, Dan's been on here before, but it was awesome to get the other half of the team on here for the first time for real. So I'm sure everyone really loved getting to hear your thoughts on all this stuff.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to be on here. Anytime.
Last minute super chat from Vanessa as is common. Thank you so much. I just want to thank everyone. You guys are awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to all your guys' future projects. And like you said, Dan, do you think that the PS1 digitals will be on the site? Like if you receive them next
So
week?
I actually, while you were talking, I did get a message from Fab that they should ship the 25th.
Okay.
So I'll probably get them. Well, it's Thanksgiving, so we'll see. Maybe I'll get them on the 30th.
Are you saying how many will be available?
We're getting around 800.
Oh wow.
And there will be a few going to Europe to help people over there.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to pay for shipping, so expensive. So
you basically sell them directly, but then also installers probably buy them as well too.
Yeah, it just makes it easier.
Yeah.
So we're not really trying to find anybody to like resell them at a higher price.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not really our goal.
Right.
So just want to keep it easier for people.
Yeah.
No, well,
So you think those will be available pretty soon then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone can look forward to. Like they should put it on their Christmas list.
Well, it's good stuff. I've been looking forward to having a good HDMI solution for PS1 stuff, and you know, now with the ODE in it and everything, like I think it's going to make streaming PlayStation stuff like a lot more enticing for us going forward. So I think you'll be seeing a lot more PS1 digital gameplay on our stream in the coming months and years.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So yeah. So thanks again to Dan and Christoph, and thanks everyone for watching. And we will see you next Sunday, and we're going to be streaming on the GBSC AIO. That probably means we'll also be loading up Chrono Cross again, as well as Die Hard Arcade and other stuff. And we are going to also be joined by some of the people behind the GBSC AIO. So look forward to that. Last minute $5 from Reldy. Thank you. Saying thanks MLiG for making such great content and Citrus for making such great hardware. Well, thank you.
And I see Jonathan G is saying everyone should go check out Jimmy Hoppa's.
Oh, Jimmy's
live
streaming
stream
right now. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what 10 a.m. over in Japan.
Something like that, yeah.
All right. Well, everyone go.
Thanks, everybody.
Go
Everybody
raid him,
donated. Thank
and we'll see you next Sunday.
All right. Bye, everybody.